Look up.
Oh,
and those things run tight, dude. Those they'd be getting tight with those tees. Or no, not with the tees. The hoodies are smaller. Like they're snug, more snug. Or maybe I'm just fatter because of quarantine.
They're form fitting. I'd say.
Two things can be true at once.
Form fitting. That's a good way. Politically correct way to say it.
I like it. That's how
now
I
me.
prefer. Rob is always politically correct.
or isn't he? That's the question. That's the question we're all wondering.
Do you guys ever hear a clicking sound from my end?
Yes. Every time. Yes.
Yeah. Constantly.
Are you being for real, both of you?
Yes.
Sometimes.
What is it? I don't know what it is.
It's like a side effect with your keyboard or something. I don't know. It's like.
I thought it was just like a demon or something.
What the shit?
I think I hadn't thought of that.
Oh, what?
I thought you were doing it on purpose. Till you just now said something.
Why would I do it on purpose?
I don't know. I thought you had like a nervous tick or something. You're just like.
All right. Well,
I think our show's haunted.
Oh, our show's on right now. What's up, Woodland Goblin? What's up, Front Row? What's up, Willie Bowen?
What's up, NWA fam?
Woodland Goblin in the house.
Yeah. Good to see you again. Front Row's here. Willie Bowen. What's up, my brother? We're going to talk.
Rob, is that a snowflake on your forehead?
Hey, Woodland Goblin, that is not a snowflake on my forehead. That's a ninja star, okay? Ninja star.
He does not have a picture of Gary on his forehead. That is a ninja star.
I've got full forehead exposure, full 5 head exposure. That's 4. This 4.
Well, you got that good haircut. You got to show it off.
Oh yeah, that's it. That's why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a big week. Pride Roast is here. Ringside Rant's here. Oh, I love this. Massive thanks to the doc. We'll talk about that in a minute.
And I know we'll talk about this also, but Brian Rosa reminding us that this is NWA Title Defense Week. Man, we got
excited.
The NWA is back in full force this week. It was back in full force last week with Thunder Rosa doing all kinds of stuff. But Thunder Rosa successfully defended that belt last night. She does it again this week successfully, I might add. And of course, Nick Aldis on Tuesday goes at it. So.
Bear with me just a minute because I got to hunt down James Lawrence's post about being wrong. We got to rub that in if at all possible.
We've got the World Championship being defended 3 times this week. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. It's going to be awesome, man. It's going to be awesome.
What a time. What a time. I was talking about this with J Cal on Friday, man. It feels like we go so long with nothing, and now we're like drinking from the fire hydrant. It's like, holy cow. Like,
it's crazy, man. Things have just picked up. It's insane. I'm excited.
Quote a great poet. Look around at how lucky we are to be alive right now. Nice. Look around. Eliza.
Is that Fergie? Who is that?
Yeah, I think it's Fergie.
Yeah,
that's the new Cardi B.
Yeah, okay. Cardi. Yeah. Look at Rob's so like disappointed. Just kind of
like, you know what, man? I'm already triggered.
Rob, you had your week where I was into Hamilton. All right, that was like
you're not into Hamilton anymore.
Not as much as I was a month ago. Like, you can't stay at that level. That's not sustainable.
Tell Piper that.
Well, I'm not going to tell Piper that. Piper is wired differently than me. She has the capacity. I can't stay at that level.
We have had the Hamilton soundtrack on loop literally since July the 4th. Literally in our car. That is all we listen to. It's all. I tried to switch it over to Tool the other day. We were talking to Tool. She's like, no, I'm not having it. I want my Hamilton. I want to hear King George III.
I mean, Everyone's different. That's the beauty of the world. I go through phases. I get obsessive about something like once a month. And that's just like, I've been talking about a lot, but I'm still in this Metallica phase. You know what I mean? It's like, I can't listen to anything but Metallica. I will say, Rob, after our conversation the other night, I did go, and for about probably 2 straight hours at work this week, I was listening to Lamb of God. And I was like,
So good, man. What did I tell you, dude?
I was feeling it. It's just a different, I wouldn't compare them to Metallica. And I think that was your point too. I mean, it's totally different. It's a different level of like metal. Metallica is definitely more radio metal, and Lamb of God is like, you about to go work out, listen to this.
Going to battle. Oh yeah. Man, no doubt. It's intense, man. You need to listen to Memento Mori. Just came out, I think. I want to say it was like the album came out in June, I think, and the world tour was delayed. But man, they're one of my favorite bands. They're up there, man. And then you look at like Perfect Circle and Tool. They're way different from Lamb of God. They're way different from Metallica. They're still metal-ish, kind of like a mixture between metal and Depeche Mode. But Tool, man, that's Tanya, the lovely Tanya. That's her favorite band in the world, man. She loves her. Absolute favorite.
Nice. Yeah.
You said awesome. Tool?
Tool. Wow. Tool and Circle and Pussifer. All of the family of Maynard bands there. She loves them. She went to the Alex Gray, the temple, whatever that he's got up in New York when they did the premiere of Vicarious. She went to it. She was there. She got to meet Alex Gray, and for Christmas a couple of years ago, I got her an Alex Gray autographed and signed and numbered print. He does all the art for Tool, all that real psychedelic stuff, and that's hanging. If you ever see me post or tweet a picture in my bedroom where there's that picture of the hand pointing up to heaven, that's a Alex Gray print right there. I think I've tweeted that out. Usually when I'm demonstrating one of the awesome shirts that Marine Tracy sends me, NWA Marine, I like to pose in front of that luchador mask print and the Alex Gray print. So
nice.
Braves won tonight, guys. Falcons lost, but Braves won. So if y'all were wondering,
I saw the Falcons lose and I saw the Braves win. Actually, I was flipping back and forth today.
Oh, I saw neither. I was at a soccer game all afternoon. So
Bears won. That's my team. I like them. They did pull one out. I'm surprised, but we'll take it. Look pretty good. Let's see.
May not live to see our glory.
Oh man,
I'm still a fan. Just to be clear, Hamilton did change my life for the better. I'm just not dwelling on it as much as I was before.
You want to know why I'm dwelling on it right now? I mean, I'm dwelling on it frequently, but I'm especially dwelling on it right now after getting to hang out with Tim Storm last night on the Nation Show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just him being a history guy actually never came up. It will come up on our Piper's Notes episode that he is destined to be on, obviously. But
well, I think you kind of have to do a Hamilton video, right? Like a song.
Oh yeah, man. We're gonna do probably just a straight up Hamilton episode.
Yeah.
Let's lead into this episode. Let's do a proper intro, and you can tell us a little bit about that Tim Storm interview if you want, Rob, if that'll work, because it'd be cool I haven't had a chance to watch it, so it'd be
let's do it.
Nice to hear about the Nation Show and put them over for a minute and all of that. So what's up, you beautiful people? This is Gary Horn, and this is the NWA, the podcast celebrating the past, present, future, history, legacy, and tradition of the greatest pro wrestling entity of all time. We're talking about the National Wrestling Alliance. And I am here, as always, with the man, the myth, the legend. Are you all anticipating which one of you I'm referring to?
I'm just wondering which one of us gets to be that.
I know. WWE Front Row is in the chat, but also I'm here with my co-host, the Dr. Rob Stinson. Hello, Doc.
Good evening, everybody. Glad to be here, man.
We're also here with, hey, it's Will. He's here.
Hey, it's Will.
We can't shake him. And man, I'm so excited to be here. I needed this today. Car trouble all day, but football's back, so that kept me motivated to get to this point. And now I get to hang out with all my bros for the rest of our lives. And we get to talk about pro wrestling, which is all I ever want to do anyway.
Oh, gosh, yeah. That's all I want to do. I just want to talk about pro wrestling, and we get to do that. So Doesn't matter how
Can't
crappy
complain.
your day was, or your weekend, or your week, or your month, or the past few months. We all get to come here tonight and we get to talk about the best thing in the world, and that's professional wrestling.
Exactly.
So how can you not be excited?
I am excited, and this is the week to be excited because we are in for a lot of stuff. First of all, there's a lot of news we're going to be able to talk about today, but also there is a lot of news coming up in the next week because this is our go home show right before UWN Primetime Live. Nick Aldis, Mike Bennett, one-on-one for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. We're going to talk about that. In fact, I'd like to talk about the whole card if we can a little bit later. Also, on Friday, September the 18th, you're going to get Mission Pro Wrestling's Hell Hath No Fury. Rob's going to Texas. Howdy, partner.
We gotta make a, hey, Rob, I know you're probably going to do this anyways, but you got to make like a mini doc of your trip and just, we call it Rob Goes to Texas.
That's not a bad idea, actually. That's good content, right? Sound like somebody else.
Hey, already on that, man. Just like Rob's trip to the Capitol, fighting for Monrovian rights. We're gonna do something like that for sure.
You got to stop at all the landmarks on the way and do like silly stuff.
Exactly. This is going to be awesome. I'm excited. But Hell Hath No Fury features Thunder Rosa defending the NWA Women's Championship against the American Kaiju, Lindsay Snow. And that is going to be a brutal battle. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be awesome. That whole show is going to be awesome. We've got some interviews with some of those people that are going to be coming out throughout the week, as long as I get my act together. But we'll get to all of that here in just a little bit. First of all, like we were talking about coming in case you didn't know, last night, Dr. Stinson was on with the Nation show. He's like as Will called him before we went on the air, he's a damn traitor. That's what he is.
Yeah, pick a show, Rob.
You guys had two guests, I think, and you got to see another show and how it's run, and probably better than ours. But tell us a little bit about that, Rob. Did you have a good time? And what Tim Storm had to say?
Man. They're great guys. They're kindred spirits over there at the Nation show. Joe Loban and Hijacker Mike, my boy, Oakland A's fan, man. I also respect the Braves. And of course, Front Row was in the house, and it felt like being at home there. They do a great job, man. It's a different kind of format and production. They've got a different vibe, but it's good. I encourage everybody to go like, follow, subscribe to them and watch their stuff because they're doing a good work over there. We had Sledge from Ring of Honor who gave us a really fantastic interview. A lot of you guys might not be familiar with Sledge, but he's one of those guys that I think we described him as if you took Jax Dane and Tom Latimer and those two met and had a love child, not that they would, but if they did, you would get Sledge or someone. I mean, this is a monstrous guy, great body, great, just intelligent guy, looks good, can cut the heck of a promo. And he is, he's still training. He's been training since quarantine out there in California. And man, the sky's the limit for this guy. He gave us some insight on where he expects to be. We talked a lot about cross promotion, his estimation about the direction of the NWA and all that. He did speak a lot about addiction and gave special acknowledgement to Tom Latimer and to Mike Bennett ahead of the show about their bravery in coming out and what a role model both of those gentlemen have been to him in his career. So it was just a great talk. And then, of course, we had the inestimable, incomparable Tim Storm, former NWA World Champion, one of the greats, one of Will's top 5 ever, as far as NWA personalities go, maybe number 1. We gave him some questions, man. I mean, we pull no punches. We asked about where he felt he fit in the title picture. We asked him to pick a winner. We had a great talk, man. And I would encourage you guys, I don't want to spoil it all here. That's up on YouTube at the Nation Show. And just follow him on YouTube, and you can go back and listen to the whole interview with both Sledge and Tim Storm and the guys in the Nation Show team. They're hanging out and talking kind of like what we do. So great experience.
Sorry, I muted myself on accident. Hello, I'm back. Well, Rob, I'm happy that you had a good time with the Nation show. we'll have to talk about your contract and everything, and just make sure you know.
Yeah, Rob, you're not allowed to do third party stuff. We forgot to put that out. So we'll talk about it offline.
Yeah, it's probably best. Not unlike most companies, you just got to get used to it. This is.
I want to say
way
kind of
the
along
world.
the lines though that to conclude the show after Tim Storm went off, Front Row led an excellent discussion, more of a panel discussion, something like what we might do in this show, on the nature of cooperation between not necessarily wrestling promotions, but that too, but cooperation among voices in the industry and people that are supporting it and people being positive. And he singled our show out, in the Nation show in particular, for being among those. And of course, RJ was out there in the chat too last night supporting that. And he's one that's of like mind and is always working to elevate the NWA. And Front Row repeated the refrain that was said years ago by someone other than J. Cal, but J. Cal recently made it famous by saying that, rising tides raise all ships. And so Front Row laid it out last night and led an excellent discussion on that. So props to him while I'm thinking about it.
Absolutely. We are happy to support all of our friends out there in podcaster show land doing what they do. And yeah, we certainly do. We just love bringing life to the pro wrestling industry in general. Just being a part of this great community is awesome.
Yeah, and we just want to apologize to the Nation show as well for sending in our third string. Gary and I were tied up, and so we just you guys had to settle for Rob. But
yeah,
I was like the fourth string. We were the fourth. We had bad luck with. Yes.
Yeah, we texted Rob and we said, "Hey man, quick, is Piper available? If she's not."
They need somebody to represent the show. Oh man, Rob, I'm sorry if I missed this. Did you catch Front Row in the chat saying you should mention Tim Storm and his plans for the NWA prior to COVID?
Yeah, man. I'll say this again. I really want you guys to go and watch it, so I don't want to spill too many beans there. But I will say that he mentioned that Tim Storm he got the World Championship at 51. He's now 55 years old. He's only been teaching for 11 years. Prior to that, and you guys have listened to his Chris Van Vliet interview and all the other interviews. He had a series of occupations leading up to that and kind of found his niche with being a public school teacher, a history teacher. But right before COVID, and we were there that last show, we had no clue that would have been the last power up to this point. Right at that point, he was on the verge of leaving public education and being a full-time employee of the NWA. Whether it be an in-ring role or a production role, he left it open for all of the above. And we know that Tim Storm has been involved in backstage type things and production and all that, but it was on the table, and the plans were for him to be NWA full-time, to be another one of those guys devoted to that and to walk away from the classroom. So that was enlightening and surprising to hear.
Yeah, that is interesting. I wonder, hopefully things get back to normal someday, and maybe Tim can still, I'm sure that for a guy like that, that's a dream of his, is to just be able to say you're full-time in the wrestling business. That would be, I think that'd be pretty awesome to be able to say. So.
He's like, I think that Tim Stormer is the kind of guy, his disposition, he's so humble, he loves life so much, and he loves what he does, and he invests himself so much. It's like, the grass is never greener for him. Like every time you ask him, what's your dream? What's your goal? He's like, man, I'm living it. I'm living it right now. He always says that. And I really like, a lot of us say that, and it's kind of like we're being, PC or we're being diplomatic. I really believe that when Tim Storm says it, he means it. And I said it last night, and if the champ Nick Aldis is listening, I said, I probably am. No, I know I am the biggest Nick Aldis fan in the world. I know it. But I would love to see Tim Storm get a chance at holding that belt one more time. Nick Aldis is going to hold it for a long, long time. He's going to hold it many, many times. I would love to see Tim Storm get that. He's such a good guy. He reminds us of every good and virtuous thing about ourselves. If there's anything worth redeeming, he reminds us of that. So I love that guy, and he was constantly just shouting out admiration for Nick Aldis and for Josephus and for the people Maureen and for the people that are doing their best to sustain what is the greatest wrestling promotion of all time, the NWA. And to have his name among the pantheon of greats, he's just completely humbled by it, So
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before, but I mean, God, I mean, if you're thinking about the NWA and you're thinking about, talent who needs to be involved in a deeper level, you would have to obviously talk about Nick Aldis. You would have to talk about Josephus, which we mentioned a lot on the show, just his creativity and his his spin on wrestling and what he brings to the table, not just in the ring, but then also Tim Storm. I mean, this guy's got years and years of experience. And like you said, I mean, like, this is always my mentality. If I was hiring people, right, I start a company and I'm going to hire people, I'm not necessarily looking at their ability as much as I am their team player ability. Are they a team player? Do they encourage people? Are they positive? Do they learn? Are they always getting better? I mean, Tim Storm at 55 is still looking to get better. How many people can say that? And he's always, as you said, he's always humble. He's always, willing to talk to people and engage. And he just seems like a great guy, would be a really valuable asset in any capacity, full-time with the National Wrestling Alliance. So I do hope when things go back to normal that that offer is still on the table and he can take it up and live that dream. Because I think, man, that would be really, really valuable to the NWA.
Yeah, I think the big thing with like a guy like Tim or with the NWA in general is I think they all have kind of that mentality of we're scrappy and we're fighters and we're having to pull together. So it's got to be about the brand. It's got to be about pulling the whole brand up as a unit. And I think that Tim's definitely got that attitude. It's the same thing we see out of people like Nick Aldis and Thunder Rosa and that sort of thing, that like any chance they get, they're also still putting over that brand so that hopefully everything you're doing, even Thunder Rosa showing up on AEW, she's still wearing the NWA logo, sporting the NWA Women's Championship. Like the idea is that what she's doing right now will bring eyes back to the NWA as she walks away from AEW or in her partnership with AEW. So right now it feels like it can only be good for business. And so Tim's always had that mentality. From the day that we heard the story of where somebody wanted to go ahead and just drop a buttload of money on the guy and have it drop the title before before Billy took over. And he still wouldn't do that because that's not the honorable thing to do. I mean, you can't find people like that don't grow on trees, man. Speaking of the honorable thing to do, by the way, and AEW and Thunder Rosa and all of that jazz, it is worth mentioning that our own friend in the chat, since we're here, we're starting off early, just like referring to things like the Nation Show and that sort of thing, just referring to the hashtag NWA fam. James William Lawrence the third, who's in the chat right now, he did put a post up on Facebook today. Well, actually, this was the other day, and he said, "I am a man who admits when he's wrong. Gary Horn and Robert Stinson. Tony Khan has booked Thunder Rosa to defend her NWA World's Women's Championship on Dynamite this week. So I'll admit I was wrong about him using NWA talent just to get his company over. It doesn't mean I'll tune in to that flippy, no-selling, botchy, ref-bearing, no-tag rules, doesn't want to be WWE, but only books former WWE talent with their men's singles titles, diet sports entertainment crap show. I love Thunder Rosa and I love the NWA, but I passionately despise AEW." Well, I mean, that's about as much as we could have hoped for, I think, from James William Lawrence. And we're happy to hear it. And he's actually in the chat right now. For those who can't see it, he is talking about that he wants to try to be more positive about wrestling in general. And so that's a nice attitude to have. It's what we try to do, I think. But props to you, James William Lawrence, for giving credit where it's due and admitting at least that much about Thunder Rosa and the deal with AEW. We do appreciate you being the bigger man and doing that. You don't have to love AEW, but it's cool to see you take that POV.
Yeah, and we're not. I think the beautiful thing about this group, and that would be the Bearded Trio, and then all of our family that's constantly in here week after week for months on end, faithfully showing in, is we encourage the debate. We encourage the critical discussion. We don't want you to be forced into liking something you don't. We just want you to think critically about it. have an open mind, lay aside predispositions, let things be judged on their own merit. And that's all, because I'm going to tell you, I mean, we're critical of a lot of stuff out there, but criticism doesn't get anybody anywhere if you don't have some like constructive advice. And that's kind of the approach we take. This is what we would like to have seen. Remember here, we're just fans, man. We're not Nick Aldis. We're not Tim Storm. We're not in the ring. We don't know we may understand objectively from an outsider's perspective about ring psychology and about prize fighting and all that. But those guys, the promoters and the workers, they're the ones who really know it. We're always going to be a step removed from that. Don't be afraid to be critical. I mean, I think we have established in our particular promotion, the National Wrestling Alliance has demonstrated time and time again that they welcome us debating and engaging, as long as it's not dehumanizing, as long as it's not disrespectful, as long as it's not just nasty. You know what I mean? I mean, I talk about wrestling with the MMA. He's got a birthday coming up this week, by the way, my brother.
That was the next thing I wanted to bring up. Happy birthday, Wrestling with the MMA.
Wrestling with the MMA. He is on here. He's always critiquing Nick Aldis all the time. Now, we know he's being tongue-in-cheek. We know he respects the world out of him. He doesn't like the, strictly business. He doesn't like the annex. He loves Tim Storm and this and that. But we know that when he's being along those lines and when he's using those kinds of terms and comments, we know he's being tongue-in-cheek. He's being funny, and he is funny. He even, when we did the celebration of the 600 day of Aldis's reign, I think all of us got maybe 10 seconds in that video. I thought that Fortune and Wrestling with the MMA were so good, I had to put their entire little shot in there. It was so good, man. But they respect the champion. They respect what he does for the business. And that's all we're saying, James. Don't change your opinion just because, don't be bullied into that, or don't feel like you have to like something you don't, and don't even abandon your passionately held, heartfelt opinions. Just be open-minded and be critical and be charitable is all we're saying. Be charitable.
Well, as someone who frequently has a different opinion than Rob here, I will say and reiterate, we've probably said this before, but the cool thing about this show, and one of the reasons why we wanted to do this, there's so much toxicity out there on Twitter, right? There's so many people that ascribe like this personal identity to like their wrestling opinions. And we want to come on here and say, hey, yeah, we can debate whatever we want, but it doesn't have to get personal, and that's one of the things I will commend you, James. Every week you've come in here and you've been very vocal about your opinion of AEW and things like that, but you've never once said anything to make any of us or anyone in the chat feel attacked, if that makes sense. Because you can go on Twitter and you can see plenty of personal attacks. People say, oh, you like AEW? Well, you must have a brain issue, like you must be stupid and all this kind of stuff. And like, this is a forum where you can come share any opinion you want, because we're not all going to agree on everything. The three of us don't hardly ever agree on anything. So like, that's the beauty of something like professional wrestling, is there's so much intricacy and nuance to it that you're not always going to see eye to eye. And the fun of this show is coming on and discussing those differences. And yeah, we just try to do it with a little bit of an open mind, and at the end of the day with a positivity of, hey, despite all this, we just love pro wrestling. And that's what we want to promote. And so I encourage the conversation. I'm not, like Rob said, we're not asking anyone to change their opinion, but we just want to continue having these conversations because these are fun for us. And I think they build camaraderie within the NWA fam. And I'm really proud of this community in particular, because it's never gotten personal. It's never gotten, out of line. Like we all hang out and have a great time. And I love it.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right on that. I mean, I always feel like we try to be clear on that, but just in case anybody's not, I mean, we think it's perfectly fine for you to have your own opinion on professional wrestling. You don't have to like the same stuff. And yeah, like Will said, I don't feel like it's ever gotten personal like that. There's just no reason. I mean, the world's a boring place if we all dig the exact same stuff. And James and I have had that exact conversation off air, that he's like, we both want to make sure we're not like attacking each other or something like that. And that's fine, man. Some of you, hey, listen, Front Row's in there, and he's regularly he's more easygoing on WWE than most of us. So that's not going to happen very often. And I try to be generally pretty kind about all of it, but even WWE is driving me nuts lately, and that dude's still hanging on even more so than me. So, and I'm not going to fault him for that. If you love it, you'll love it. I mean, that's the way it is.
Yeah. And I mean, I love that. I love that there's room for all opinions here in the NWA fam and on this show, and that we can have those discussions. Cause let's just admit, man, it would be super boring if we were all just like clones of each other and we had the same opinions about everything. Like, what would we even talk about? And so, I mean, for me, it makes it interesting. It makes it fun.
I just realized I was going to mention earlier when Front Row and Rob were talking about the Nation show this past week. I did step in for a minute and here they were talking about Nita Strauss. Will, do you listen to Alice Cooper?
No.
Oh man, his guitarist. You just Google Nita Strauss and it's gorgeous. Anyway, I saw Alice Cooper not too long ago, and she's fantastic. Just if my face could turn into the hard eyes emoji, it would.
She's the one that was involved in Shinsuke's entrance, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So I know that much.
Yeah. So anyway, Nita Strauss, everybody check her out. All right, Rob's back, so be good. No, nobody knew Rob left.
Sorry, I've got daddy duty tonight by myself, but the lovely Tanya's at work, and so Petra needed to be tended to real quick. She's having a rough night getting to sleep. But I just heard Nita Strauss, one of my favorites of all time. This came in at the tail end of that. So
I was just saying, I did stumble into the conversation with the Nation show that you guys were having a conversation about her for some reason. So, and I was like, well, hold on, let me stop for a second. Let's see what they're saying.
2 weeks before Petra was born, it was October of 2018. Yes, October of 2018. We went and saw Alice Cooper perform here in Memorial Arena in Chattanooga. So, Petra's been rocking out to Alice Cooper and Nita Strauss since before she broke out into the world, man. But she just rocked it. She killed it.
Yeah, I was just saying I saw them like right before COVID really caused everything to come to a screeching halt. Brian Rosa giving us a lot of props in the chat. Thanks, Brian Rosa. We've gone 33 minutes so far. No WWE speak until we talked about it there on the end of that tail end, talking about how Front Row likes him. But anyway, nobody's perfect. So I guess let's dive into some news here. We eventually do want to talk about, I mean, like Brian Rosa already mentioned it once in the chat that, of course, today or this week is NWA title defense week. I mean, it is happening all up and down the week. You're going to get to see plenty of action. Thunder Rosa just fought. Was it last night Thunder Rosa fought?
Yes.
Yeah. So she was just there. She almost super kicked a kid in the face. I saw that. So props to her for that. Is that what you did to make Petra go to sleep, Rob?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not admitting that on live YouTube.
Rob's like, hang on, I'll be right back.
Oh man. Let's see here. So let's start off with the news this week that our homies over at Fight TV. I know a lot of you out there, especially if you run a podcast, they've been good to you probably this week because they're hosting the United Wrestling Network's Primetime Live on Tuesday, September 15th. They have been, helping us out with giveaways and that sort of thing. But they just reached a deal with a company called Zeason. Is that how you'd pronounce that, Will?
Looks like it. I don't know. I don't know how to say it out loud, but it's ZEASN.
Yeah. They partnered with Fight TV, and they're a leading provider of OTT and smart TV solutions. And this is going to help expand Fight TV to a lot more places. So that means for the NWA, by the way, that's going to expand their access to a lot more places. And so just want to give a shout out to them. They reached a deal. And so it sounds like a good move for Fight TV, and just cool. Just wanted to say congrats to Fight.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. MLW, we know it's been making a lot of deals and expanding their reach and their visibility, and for non-mainstream wrestling, not AEW or WWE, that's always a good thing. So Fight TV entering into this deal, and we don't know a lot about this Zeason company, but apparently they have a lot of things in place with different devices and apps and things like that stream. It's called OTT TV, which means over the top. So that's anything like a Roku or Apple TV or something like that.
Thanks for clearing
Chromecast.
that up, because I was not sure.
Yeah, well, I'm in marketing, so we deal with all that stuff. So, but so there's a lot of partnerships there. So the assumption would be that Fight TV will probably, once they get into this deal and start distributing, they're going to be available on a lot more platforms and all over the world, and just expand that reach, which is not only good for Fight TV, but it's good for, as you said, the NWA, UWN, Ring of Honor, who's on there, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood is on Fight TV. Anyone who is currently on Fight TV, that's just more visibility. So it's good news.
All right. And let's see, what else can we talk about? Well, there is the news that, there's a small bit of news from AEW this past week. Miro showed up. I don't know if you guys saw that. I saw it starred down at the bottom of a lot of articles. Nobody seemed to care that much. Just kidding. It was big news. He's Kip Sabian's best man, and he's there. And he did the story that I guess I heard Chris Jericho helped him out with, just that pitch there at the beginning about grabbing brass rings, but now you can shove those up your ass. And the cooler news I thought, or interesting news I thought out of it, that Fightful's saying that Miro will be sticking around AEW for some time because he has signed a long-term deal with the company. So this is a big thing. This is not just like a small little contract. There is, however, in the contract an option that he can appear in other promotions. His contract allows him to work with New Japan Pro Wrestling and take independent booking, similar to what Jon Moxley has. Although, just like Jon Moxley, he's not allowed to wrestle for New Japan in the United States. So that's the only deal. I think Dave Meltzer reported that basically that his thing is that he can wrestle pretty much anywhere. It has to get approved by AEW, basically. Now, the New Japan thing's cool and all that, but it's unlikely to happen anytime soon, I guess, because, well, ain't nobody going to Japan. But anyway, kind of cool. What do you guys think about Miro and AEW and all of that stuff?
That's big, man. I love that at all appearances it's a longer term deal, which means that they are probably going to have big plans for him long term, which means that, man, we might get to see him with a world title at some point, something we thought we'd see at some point in WWE, but never did. So I think it's great. I love, again, we talk about the cooperation and the things like that, and not to harp on AEW, but this is another example of where it does seem like they are at the forefront of not being as selfish as they could be with the money that they have and the contracts that they have, and saying, they want a long-term deal with Miro and are going to, put him in a position to actually get over and not be mocked by the leadership like he was in WWE. But also, he can go get himself over elsewhere. And I think that's because they know that if he does that, that also helps AEW. If he appears in Japan whenever travel restrictions loosen up and he goes over there and makes a big statement over there because he can, that everybody wins with that. So I love it. I'm happy for him. I'm happy to see where it takes him. I was a little taken aback with that storyline being how he entered the scene with Kip Sabian and being the best man and stuff like that. But, I'm sure he's going to make it work. And I just love seeing him not out of character, but out of that kind of WWE kind of stifled character, so I'm excited about it.
Man, when I saw that, I was like, I know James Lawrence is just like biting his tongue right now when he saw it. He's like, this has got to be driving his nuts. Because like you're saying, like to be debuted as Sabian's best man is, where are they going with this? I mean, we're talking about a guy who I think as early as 2015 was like in the PWI 500 top 10. He is a 3-time U.S. champion. I mean, he has been voted most improved and most underrated. He's like Cesaro. He's one of the perennially misused guys who everybody thinks is going to be big stature, A-list type talent. And he is A-list type talent. So I think it's good for AEW. I hope they do him right. And who knows where they're going with this. I'm like you. I'm kind of like, it's weird, the Sabian best man thing. I don't know. I would rather have seen him come in and like challenge Lance Archer or something like that, or challenge for that TNT title or something, make a bigger splash. But hey, he's there. We kind of thought it was going to happen, and lo and behold, it did.
What's funny about that though is like we say that, but if that had happened, there would be people criticizing, maybe even us saying, oh, he just showed up out of nowhere, and because he's an ex-WWE guy, he gets a title shot or something like that. So, we say that, but at the same time, I kind of like it because they're gonna slow burn his build. You know what I mean? If he eventually gets to that title spot. And I mean, I think it elevates what they're trying to do with Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford. I think that's an asset to them. And I think that's a smart strategic move on AEW's part. Let's bring some shine to that because they really do believe in Kip and Penelope, and I do too. I think they're fantastic, and I think that they're underappreciated, and so maybe this can kind of give the rub to them and enhance that storyline a little bit.
Now you hold on right there, Will.
Oh no, here we go.
In prize fighting, when the WBC champion shows up at the IBF champions match, you don't need an introduction. Everybody knows who Rusev is. I think the only thing that's going to elevate Penelope Ford at this point is to get away from the whole kissing, locking tongues with Sabian, who I like. I like Sabian. Quit locking tongues with him all the time. Wrestle Thunder Rosa, wrestle Hikaru Shida. Show the world what you got. Do that. That's what's going to elevate Penelope Ford. Rusev walks in, the world knows him. We all know him. We're intelligent fans. I think he walks in and he needs to challenge Lance Archer or Brody Lee.
All right. Well, John Farmer does point out in the chat that Miro and Lana, both names, have only 4 letters. I'm
kind of like RD Stinson 4 on Twitter. All right. I see what's going on here.
4 steps ahead, baby. 4 steps ahead.
If anybody was worried, James Lawrence did jump in with, he is happy for Rusev / Miro, but I think AEW botched his entrance. You can't ask for a calmer retort than that from James Lawrence. That is
I want to know how many replies were typed out that he deleted before landing on that, how many revisions that took. But I'm proud of you.
See the little dots like like when you're thinking and it stops. Because James Lawrence was over here like this, like.
Guys, did you see Marty Jannetty's now claiming that the story about him murdering a guy who tried to sexually molest him when he was a teenager was a work to get attention and nothing more.
Gosh, if I had a dime for every wrestling storyline that was I murdered a guy. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to. I am absolutely not trying to make light of any of that. That transition is what got me, Gary, because we were already kind of, and then you just went right into that. So
that was the next thing I had written down. So there we go. And Rob got abnormally silent about it, like I had offended him that I brought up the Marty Jannetty story. So it worried me a little bit.
I was noticing that the lovely Tanya Fields, formerly Tanya Fields, Tanya Stinson is in the chat. She doesn't often have an opportunity to make it, so she's just saying, "Hey, baby, I wanted to make sure that you understand she wasn't talking to either you, Gary, or you, Will. She's talking to the doc."
Well,
yeah, that's your opinion.
It's not what my text messages say.
No, that's Marty Jannetty. If it's a work, it's another thing that's in poor taste, man. Yeah, you ought not to be working and using molestation as an object. I mean, David Marquez might come on here and say, everything's fair game when it comes to wrestling. I don't, I respectfully, Mark, I mean, who am I to disagree with him? But I respectfully disagree. I think there's certain things that you shouldn't. If it's a work, don't use it, man. Don't use that to fuel something like that. Those are things that are too hurtful, too damaging, too real to joke about or to play around with. So I guess that's where I was coming from.
Yeah, I think in the story that he told, it was going to be that he had actually, he would be going up against his friend who was a correctional officer or something. The thing that's most garbage about all of that, I mean, Marty, if you're listening, I apologize. It's just what makes it harder to believe is that you're not currently booked anywhere. So, like, what show is this for? And what show is going to put that on? Like that storyline, like what Will was kind of joking about there is like, what angle? I mean, Katie Vick always comes to mind. So there's always that story.
You saying, Gary, he did it.
I'm just saying, I don't know. I'm just saying, maybe he says a lot of things is maybe what he does. So that's, there's that. Gerald Briscoe received a phone call from Vince McMahon on September 9th, letting him know that he would not be brought back to the company after a storied 36 years. That's courtesy of Dave Meltzer out of The Observer. Briscoe, who turned 74 on 9/19, had been furloughed in April and was one of as many as 70 people let go this past week in decisions made largely regarding not bringing back those furloughed at the time. Categories hit the hardest were live event producers, production managers, and those who worked in other aspects of live events, merchandise, and travel. A number of producers were furloughed and then let go. Lance Storm had already been officially let go after being furloughed due to issues in being able to get back into the U.S. Mike Rotunda and Sarah Stock were also let go. It says, as a general rule, the company seems to have kept the younger producers and let the older ones go. It's just the cuts were in most part inevitable, with the belief that the wrestling business as it was in February is not going back as far as live events are concerned. Live events were no longer profitable, plus the travel and fatigue and physical pounding of them led to high injury rates. And so this is it slows down progress, is basically some of the stuff Meltzer gets into as far as like younger talent and having the chance to train with other people. But it sounds like WWE is intending on backing off of live events no matter what, once everything gets rolling again. So, which makes sense, I guess. But since AEW doesn't even really mess with that much. But any thoughts there, fellas?
I mean, I hate it for Gerald Briscoe. I mean, he's a legend. And you hate news like that and the fact that he gets the headlines. And this may be a little surprising. I mean, I've been highly critical, obviously, of the WWE in letting all those people go. But I mean, and this may shock Rob, but from a business standpoint, I can understand it. I mean, if they're going to cut down on live shows, they don't need all the personnel that run live shows, right? So it's unfortunate. And, obviously I hope all those people find gigs elsewhere, but it's kind of one of those things that hate to see Briscoe's name in that bunch, but it does make sense.
Yeah. Sorry, Rob, you go ahead.
No, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, one of the names we're going to keep seeing pop up here as we start to progress into talking about outside news is there was a big hire of the new president in WWE, Nick Khan, not to be confused with Tony Khan. Some of Meltzer's reporting was basically saying there's a lot of bitterness from some of the talent, from feeling very strung along that he had been told that people kept being told they'd be brought back. And then the date kept being pushed back another month. In time, the recognition with record profits in Q2 and the biggest contract hire of a new president in Nick Khan led to bitterness because they were told the furloughs were the last thing the company would want, and they were only being forced out of economic necessity. With the continued delays, many had started looking elsewhere, no longer being convinced they were going to be brought back. But it's a tough economic market right now, and some of those let go had been brought back in recent weeks, so there was some hope. But then all this past week, people were just told basically they're not coming back. So it's kind of the same stuff we've talked about, Rob. Just that, it's tough because you see them dropping money, like they said on Nick Khan, and they're recording record profits, but then they can't afford all of these folks, and they're making the business decision to let them go.
Yeah, and businesses like Will said, businesses have to make decisions that they think are sound. Tanya and I were out today in Chattanooga, and we were, riding through town looking at many of our favorite restaurants that are like closed forever. Not closed like until quarantine's over and all that. They're closed for good. They did not survive this epidemic. I always thought that 9/11 was going to be the crisis of my life, and it wasn't. It was this. And we're going to feel the implications of this for a long, long time, whether it's, a restaurant that you liked or a wrestling personality that you really appreciated that lost a job because of the financial situation and all that. And I would just encourage everybody to take heart, just to, stay strong. And I think, we'll see here in the next few months, we'll see things start to really come back to life. We're already seeing it in some respects, as long as we're doing things safely. I would like to, hasten that, but those are things that are out of our hands and out of our control. And Briscoe is one of the greats, and he deserves every good thing that comes to him. So it's a bummer that happened. But those are business decisions that have to do with live performances, and so it's unfortunate.
Yeah, seeing in the chat, James Lawrence again is bringing up the fact that Briscoe was in his 70s. It's in a time with the viruses really affecting elderly people. He doesn't need the money. The WWE probably doesn't want the hazard. Retirement just seemed to be inevitable. But yeah, it's always sad to see, though, like after 36 years, seeing somebody get cut loose. I'm sure that's not the way anybody intended that to go down. Let's move away from those major companies for a second and talk about another one real quick. If you guys have a minute, I hope you do, because that's what we do here. I
gotta be somewhere. Oh, go ahead.
Oh man, the G1 Climax is coming up, which begins on September the 19th in Osaka and ends on October 20th in Tokyo. Every single year for the past 3 or 4 years, I have wanted to watch the G1. I've always been interested in checking it out, and I always say I'm gonna. And I think the only thing that ever prevents me from doing it, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, there's not like a good way to just it's not on like Fight TV where I can just pick it out on my Roku. It's always like you got to watch it on your computer. I suppose you could, stream it over to your TV or something like that. But there's that part of it. But anyway, I guess I bring it up that way because this year is no exception. I really want to see this. It sounds awesome. And they've even brought in wrestlers that you might not have expected to see actually show up for the G1, but they've all been under 2-week quarantines and gone through testing and everything. So folks such as Jay White, Juice Robinson, Kenta, Jeff Cobb, Will Ospreay, all of them are going to be participating in the G1. But listen to this A block for anybody that it matters to. I mean, I think this just sounds cool. You got Okada versus Kota Ibushi, Takagi versus Jay White, Tomohiro Ishii versus Minoru Suzuki, Jeff Cobb versus Taichi, Will Ospreay versus Takahashi. That already sounds those names I actually know from New Japan, not even being a major New Japan fan. But then you got Tanahashi versus Naito in the B block, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Evil, Goto versus Kenta, Yano versus Sonata, Juice Robinson versus Yoshihashi. And all of these guys are going to end up facing each other because that's how this thing works. It's like the point-based system, right? So they will continue on all the way into October. And the final, which is the A block winner versus the B block winner, takes place on October the 18th. So anyway, it was a lot of information. Just wanted to throw that out there. Any thoughts on the G1 Climax, fellas?
I'm excited about it. I'm like you. Maybe we maybe we sit down, figure out the best way to follow it this year and cover it a little bit on this show as kind of some incentive. Because it's interesting because it's such a long-term thing that you just mentioned, and I love that. But again, I've never had the time or resources to invest in keeping up with it. So I'd love to do that this year. I mean, those are some huge names, man. I mean, those matches you just mentioned, I mean, some of those got me pretty excited. And like you, I don't really follow New Japan that closely. I'm just kind of familiar with a lot of these guys. But man, I would love to see just about every match you just mentioned.
Yeah, that A block, I've been seeing a lot of discussion on that one online. Just like people are like, wow, this is insane. Like, this is a lot of good people here. Rob, have you ever kept up with New Japan really, or have you watched any of it or ever caught a G1?
New Japan, I think we talked about this a few weeks ago. New Japan is, for us in the States and what we're used to, it's a different palette. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a different style. People speak about strong style wrestling, and it's a little bit, it's a cultural thing. It's really good. It's probably some of the best for those who really like prize fighting, it's some of the best stuff out there. But with the G1 Climax, I mean, I'm just thinking like Tetsuya Naito versus Cobb. Who wouldn't want to see that, man? I mean, Cobb was someone who we were expecting was going to take on Nick Aldis, for the title just a couple of weeks ago. Who would not love to see that? Or Ospreay versus Naito, I mean, you got all kinds of possibilities. It's very deliberately laid out, but I think New Japan is some of the best stuff out there. When we talk about the legitimacy of world championship title claims, you have to talk about New Japan and IWGP. And, I mean, when you listen to the people that really know wrestling, respect it, the workers, the title holders, guys like Nick Aldis, guys like Eddie Kingston, they're constantly saying, I want to take the belt to Japan. I want to defend this belt in New Japan. I mean, it's a constant thing. So I can't sing the praises of New Japan enough. And I think this, for those who have the time and the ability to attention span to watch and follow this, I think you're going to be in for a treat. It's big stuff.
One of the ones that I was curious about, I was just scrolling through trying to figure out, and of course they're saving it right towards the end, is two of the hottest people you always hear about online that like make their ways into like lots of mainstream conversation about wrestling are Kazuchika Okada and Will Ospreay, and them both being in the A block. I was like, that means they're going to fight each other at some point, and that sounds like that'd be badass. and they are on October 16th, so right towards the end of the G1 Climax. Those two will be facing off in a match as part of the A block. So that's kind of wicked. So yeah, I'm with Will. Maybe we figure out a way to get down on some New Japan this time around. All right. The other stuff, just trying to keep it off WWE for a minute if we can. Just for Brian Rose's sanity.
We're trying to keep Brian around as long as we can.
Another thing I've always wanted to watch, and I've never really got a chance to sit down and watch like on time, is Josh Barnett's Bloodsport. And that one's coming up again on October the 11th. And I mean, I think our one of our favorites is the American Kaiju, Lindsay Snow. She was in Bloodsport at one point. Allison Kay has participated in Bloodsport. So it's seen a lot of different people. Just recently announced, I think today, Deonna Purrazzo, from Impact Wrestling is going to be there. We've also seen NWA alum Homicide is going to be participating in Bloodsport this year. Josh Alexander has been announced for it. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think those are the only names I can think of. For those who don't know, Bloodsport's a little different. It's a lot like what WWE or Raw Underground's trying to do right now. It seems like, but yeah, it's just basically like more straight up, like mixed martial arts style fighting. It looks like, and no ropes, nothing like that. They just go at it in the ring. It started out with Matt Riddle, if I'm not mistaken, and then Josh Barnett took it over. They switched the names. GCW is the actual promotion that puts it on. But yeah, October the 11th, 8 p.m. Marion County Fairgrounds in Indianapolis, Indiana. This will be on Fight TV, of course, so you'll be able to watch it. And it says it's going to have 7 to 10 matches in a wrestling ring, no ropes, no turnbuckles, just fighting. So have you guys ever seen Bloodsport?
I haven't. I've heard about it. Kind of like you, I'd never kept up with it in time. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm a huge Deonna Purrazzo fan, so that name really pulls me in and makes me a little more interested this year.
Yeah, I'm not very familiar with it. I just anything that's associated with Lindsay Snow, I think it's got to be good. So, so I've got to educate myself but we'll see.
Rob, lately, I mean, you always seem like a huge Thunder Rosa fan and a huge Nick Aldis fan, and here lately you have been real wishy-washy. They've got some big matches coming up, and I don't know whether it be your odd support of Lindsay Snow or your feeling something towards Mike Bennett. You're suddenly appearing on the Nation show instead of where you belong. It's weird. Your allegiances are to be questioned, it feels like.
Well, I know that we're handing out Primetime Live and Mission Pro match predictions tonight. I know we're going to be doing that, but let me go ahead and just precipitate all this, this discontent you're trying to spread by saying that at the end of this week, Nick Aldis will still be the champion and Thunder Rosa will still be the champion. Bank on it. I'm just saying Mike Bennett and Lindsay Snow are freaking phenomenal challengers, and nothing's impossible when you throw names like that into it. I'm just saying. I mean, their names are on the marquee. They're wrestling in the best promotions. If those weren't the best promotions, their names wouldn't be there. So in a business in a sport like professional wrestling, anything can happen. Is it outside the realm of possibility that Lindsay Snow could win that belt or that Mike Bennett could? No, it's not outside the realm of possibility. But the money that I have, what little I have, I'm putting on my champions, Aldis and Thunder Rosa. Make no bones about it. I just really like these matches. I think they're important, and they're Super Bowls.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not the only person questioning. Brian Rosa is back in the chat saying that the shed was moved further out tonight.
At least I got a shed, man. I mean, it's an outside show, so at least I'm getting some cover. At least he's not just putting me in behind some curtains, out there in the middle of the heat.
Oh man, clickbait Gary strikes again.
Well, while we're on the subject, let's jump on Hell Hath No Fury, because I'm worried that some of you watching right now, and while we're peeking at our audience, we got to let you know about Hell Hath No Fury from Mission Pro Wrestling. This thing is taking place. It's coming up this week, Friday, September 18th. It is starting at 7:30 p.m. is bell time. It is available on the Title Match Network. I heard they were releasing some extra tickets for it. I don't have all of the information on there. Brian Rosa may mention that here, but this event's going to be hot. It's awesome. I mean, it's what Mission Pro has become, woman run, top to bottom. We're talking every possible position in the company is handled by a woman. One of the first interviews we'll have coming out is their head booker, Robin Reed, and she is a fantastic lady, and I can't wait for you guys to hear from her and just her thoughts on wrestling as just how it should be and what it means, and just her desire to make people respect women's pro wrestling. And then you're going to get a chance to see that happen this Friday. So obviously we'll get to UWN Primetime Live, where we'll see the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship defended. But please don't forget that on Friday, the NWA Women's Championship is defended as Thunder Rosa takes on the American Kaiju, Lindsay Snow. You can say what you will. I mean, Thunder Rosa just took on Sheena, and she's taking on Serena Deeb. Thunder Rosa's taking on Allison Kay, and so on and so forth. But to discount the American Kaiju, Lindsay Snow, there's a part of me that wants to say this might be her toughest challenge to date. And I don't want to discredit anybody else. I'm just saying, if you don't know Lindsay Snow, If you've been sleeping on her, like you better wake up. And I guarantee you, Thunder Rosa is not going to be taking this challenge lightly. She is a badass. Am I right, Rob Stinson?
I mean, this is no shade on Hikaru Shida. This is no shade on Ivelisse, who's got, to take on Thunder Rosa on Wednesday. This is no shade on Kimberly. This is no shade on Penelope Ford. This is no shade on any of those guys, or gals, excuse me. It's just that I think Lindsay Snow is uniquely fitted and matched and similar to Thunder Rosa. I think their styles were similar. Their looks were similar. Their grit is similar. They're both freaking ring savvy. They're both very edgy. They're both badasses. So I think that this is like the best possible matchup that's out there. So Lindsay Snow is someone that in a year from now she's going to be a household name like Thunder Rosa already is. So and this again, no discredit to anybody else because Hikaru Shida is phenomenal. She's phenomenal, but I think Lindsay Snow is the better matchup. I just honestly do. I mean, if you look at her, go back on YouTube. There's plenty of stuff out there. Brian Rose is in the chat. He can comment on this too. This is going to be Thunder Rosa's best match so far this year. Best matchup, excuse me.
Yeah, I don't think we could put this over enough. I mean, that headlining match is enough right there for you to go ahead and make sure you have the Title Match Network to see this. Our own Dr. Rob Stinson will be in Buda, Texas. They're live in a shed out in the parking lot, maybe in a different parking lot based on the way things are going thus far. But his wife, the lovely Tanya Stinson, will be there front row, and it'll be good to see her participating. All right. And then also don't forget in that event, besides just that awesome main event, you've got Vert Vixen and Jenna Lynn versus Promise Braxton and Killa Kate. You've got Roxy versus Jenna Van Muscles. You've got Alex Gracia versus Avery Taylor. Maddie Rinkowski takes on Red Velvet, who you've probably seen on AEW here recently. Elena Black versus Rachel Rose. These are two up-and-comers I think you got to keep your eyes on. And La Rosa Negra is taking on All Elite Wrestling's Big Swole. So a lot of names there. And if you want to know who's up and coming in women's wrestling, who you got to keep your eyes out for, this is how you're going to find out. You're going to tune into Mission Pro Wrestling's Hell Hath No Fury on Friday, September 18th on the Title Match Network. I've already signed up. I'm ready to go. Will, are you going to be watching Hell Hath No Fury?
Absolutely. Of course. I'm stoked, man.
I need one of you guys to send me your login for that so I can get it on the shed out there.
Probably got to buy your own, man. You got to buy your own, bro.
That's how you support it, Rob.
True.
I'm surprised you don't just already like have it bought and your tickets bought and all of that. Like, I just feel like you would do that.
Well, I'm probably, now that I'm being guilted into it, I'm probably going to, but well, I guess I'll just have Tanya take pics and text me the results.
Yeah. So for those asking, no, it's not completely free to watch. Title Match Network does have like a monthly subscription price. I think it's the same price as the WWE Network, and this is better. So Title Match Network, by the way, just to put them over for a second, I mean, they feature a lot of stuff. It is obviously events like this. You can also see great women's wrestling there with like their Ladies Night Out series and that sort of thing. But they also have like shoot interviews and just lots of independent wrestling on there. So it's you definitely got to check that out. And I'm learning in the chat that the shed will have no Wi-Fi, Rob. Sorry to
Dang it.
If you haven't seen it, I wish that the NWA even in their Patreon, if they're just going to sit on it all day, they American Kaiju Lindsay Snow was in a Circle Squared match and they just never put the damn thing out. So don't know what they're doing as far as that goes, but there you have it. Make sure you check it out. We're going to be covering that thing in depth. I'm sure we'll have review shows. Maybe we can even get Rob on like late that night or something, and we can talk about it or something, do like a recap show. It'll be a lot of fun. Rob, are you going to be available on Thursday for our new start time?
I'll be flying in on Thursday. So what I'll try to do, I know you guys are going live on Thursday. As soon as I touch ground and turn my airplane mode off, I'll try to come on. I'll probably be in a Uber or a Lyft vehicle, but I'll come on and just give you my status. Make sure I touch ground safely and then try to join in as best I can. But yeah, it's gonna be hit or miss. So we'll see. I hope to be here Thursday night.
All right. Well, yeah. Let's just say if you're not, don't bother coming back.
Well, your contract's up after this week, anyways, so we'll talk about it.
Well, thank you guys for all of you who are here. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you hit that like button. We do appreciate every single one of you for hanging out here. Front row pointing out Lindsay Snow versus Rocky Radley in the Circle Squared match is what it was. And it was a great match. I remember seeing it right there live in person and just immediately being sold on the American Kaiju. So gotta definitely check that out. All right. So that I guess it's worth mentioning too, if it wasn't clear by that we are going to be starting to show back up live on Thursdays now, thanks to UWN Primetime Live. So, those of you who are used to hanging out with us on Tuesdays, well, now you should be on Fight TV watching that show instead. And it's a little late for us to go on afterwards. You got to get your beauty sleep. And so we don't want to interrupt that or our own. I guess if you want, we could go ahead and talk about UWN Primetime Live. You think now's a good time to go ahead and just dive into that thing?
Good time as ever, man. Let's do it.
Yeah, baby. Let's see here. I had the card pulled up. This card is stacked too. I'm pretty excited about this one. For those who don't know, it's available on Fight TV. You can go check this thing out. It's also available on in-demand pay-per-view. I believe the price there is $11.99. Or you can go on Fight TV and you can pay $7.99 for the single first episode, or you can buy a bundle deal for $23.99, and that gets you 4 of the episodes that are going to be coming out for United Wrestling Network's Primetime Live. Definitely worth checking out. I would have had to went with the bundle deal because I'm just invested already. Because I know in the first 2 immediately, we got this Nick Aldis Mike Bennett match, but also Thunder Rosa's confirmed for the September 22nd episode. Hopefully, still with the NWA Women's Championship, remains to be seen. But she will definitely be on board for the next week's episode. So you already know you're going to want to tune into that one, the 2 top champions in the NWA. Now, I've seen Eli Drake and Allison Kay's faces plastered all over everything with the Primetime Live thing, but I've never seen, anything official from them. Have you guys?
I haven't either, but I did notice that. I mean, all the promo art on Fight TV and things like that, they're definitely heavily featured on there. So hopefully they will be appearing. I can't imagine that they would be confirmed and not announced. Those are just 2 big stars that you feel like you would want to leverage that for promotion. So maybe they were not going to be on the first episode. I don't know why, but maybe it'll be 2 or 3. I'm not sure, but you got to imagine they're going to be on there at some point.
Yeah, interesting. It'll be fun to see how that plays out. Well, some of the stuff we do know is going to be taking place at UWN Primetime Live this Tuesday night on September 15th. 2 of California's most dominant tag teams will be facing off in a colossal clash this week. It's let's see, the Tribe, which is the Hawaiian Lion, and the Navajo Warrior will take on the Wolf Zaddies, Bad Dude Tito and Che Cabrera. The Wolf Zaddies are known for beating opponents everywhere into submission, and they just have been carving a path of destruction throughout the independent scene. And they're going to have to overcome the Tribe, though, this week. And these guys are pretty vibrant tag team, so they look fun to watch. I'm not super familiar with either, so I can't give you like some huge backstory on them, but it will be fun to watch. Guys, I think we talked about, before we get too deep into this, we talked about going ahead to make our predictions. I don't know what's at stake, maybe just bragging rights, but we can go ahead and do that, and we can start right here with this tag team match. I think the fan favorites in this matchup are the Tribe. The Wolf Zaddies seem to have that like Road Warriors vibe of like trying to come in and just rough people up. But I guess, Will, let's throw to you first. If you had to pick, I'm going to write these down, what we said. And who do you think? The Tribe or the Wolf Zaddies?
I'm going Wolf Zaddies. J Cal gave me a nice brief history of the tribe, and I know those guys are they're top notch and they're experienced and can get the job done. But from what I've seen from the Wolf Zaddies, I think they're coming out with the win on this one.
Yeah,
Rob,
I agree.
what do you feel?
I agree with Will. The Wolf Zaddies got this guaranteed. They're way too aggressive. They're way too brutal. They seem to have the intensity edge and the fury right now. So, yeah, as far as talent goes, they're equally matched, I would say. But the Zaddies got that intensity edge that's going to put them over the top. So, no doubt. Bad Dude Tito and Che Cabrera for the win.
All right. If you guys have more backstory than I do on some of these, you can let me know. But this is going to be interesting. I'm super excited. Sorry, I'm just writing down our picks. I'm actually going with the Wolf Zaddies on this one too. I want to be different than you guys, but these guys look tough. I don't want to bet against them. James Larson in the chat pointing out that Dave Marquez has been heavily hyping this tag match, so could be exciting to watch. All right, next up on that card at UWN Primetime Live, you're going to see Will Allday, who is he's a former collegiate wrestling standout, and he's been training under Booker T at the Reality of Wrestling promotion. He comes out of Texas, I believe. He's going to be taking on Jordan Clearwater, aka the Golden Boy. He's been a fixture on the West Coast here lately, being very successful over there. He was in the semifinals of the most recent Percy Pringle III Memorial Cup, the PP3 that I see here. And he also debuted on New Japan's Pro Wrestling Strong TV series on Fight. So he's been making a name for himself, but these two are going to be taking each other on. They're billing it over on the Primetime Live website as a Texas versus California, that kind of thing. But let's get some predictions on that. Rob, I'll throw it to you first this time.
I'm going with Clearwater. Clearwater is trained by Carl Anderson, and he's a Texas boy. You know, everything's bigger and tougher out in Texas, and so I'm going with Clearwater.
Nice. Will, what are you thinking?
I'm gonna go all day because Rob said Clearwater, and I don't have as much context for the show, and I want to make it interesting. So let's go Will all day. All
right. Well, now I feel like I have to choose between my two favorites.
Yeah, pick which one. Who are you with?
I think I'm leaning Will all day in this one. I think that's where my my instinct is taking me. So I'll throw myself over on Will's side for this one. And we'll find out. Now we'll know we all three can't have perfect cards.
Yep. You got to keep it interesting.
And we'd love to know what you think. Show us in the comments, show us in the chat, wherever you'd like to. Yeah, be sure to let us know. We can reference back here and we can find out who had a perfect card picked out for this event. Brian Rosa already saying Will all day on that one for him. Let's see here. Next up, we have Chris Dickinson. He's making his debut over on the UWN scene, and he's taken on, it looks like, Dickie Mayer. Chris Dickinson is looking like he's pretty well known as being one of the most hard-hitting and independent pro wrestlers right now, or hard-hitting and in-demand independent, that's what I meant to say, pro wrestlers on the scene right now. He's been in AAA, Lucha I think, was he on Lucha Libre, I think, just in general, and Evolve and Beyond Wrestling. And he's going to try to make a name for himself by taking on Dickie Mayer, who is trained by WWE star Brian Kendrick and Jesse Hernandez. And he's been a fixture over in California as well. What's it going to be, fellas? Is Will Dickinson or will Chris Dickinson take on and defeat Dickie Mayer? Are we going to see an upset on their debut?
Yeah, I'm going Dickinson. I feel like they're going to want to give him some shine. He was the first kind of announced talent to this whole thing. So I think he's going to come out looking strong.
Rob, you feeling the same?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a guy who is a mainstay in Jersey Championship Wrestling, Jersey All Pro Wrestling. Of course, I think the world of the law. This is one of the most respected independent wrestlers here. Reminds me a lot of Eddie Kingston. Not necessarily in style, but just the journeyman life that he's led. And at the end of the day, his experience and talent is going to prove too much. Chris Dickinson all day, not all day like the previous match, but all day long.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, let's things start picking up here. The stakes get larger the further up the card you move. We've got a UWN Television Championship match coming up. Dan the Man Joseph. He's been enjoying his championship reign as the United Wrestling Network's television champion. And he's been showing up on the show. You can watch him right now on YouTube. He's been a pretty regular addition to that show, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. But he's going to be taking on from Atlantic City, New Jersey, the unorthodox Levi Shapiro. They are no strangers to each other. They actually kind of have a history together. Levi Shapiro, I think, has a manager, Howdy Price, I believe, and he's a guy who recently on I want to say Championship Wrestling from Hollywood did lose to Dan Joseph, so this is like his second chance at glory. He's going to try to take that UWN Television Championship. The question is, Rob, will he take the television championship from Dan Joseph?
Of course he won't. Dan Joseph does not drop the title, not on this show, not to Levi Shapiro.
Will, you feeling the same way?
I wanted to go rogue, but I can't on this one. Dan Joseph retains. I think this is actually one of the matches I'm really, really looking forward to as far as guys that I'm not super familiar with, just because I've seen enough of both of these guys to be really interested to see the kind of match they're going to put on. But I do agree at the end of the day, I think Dan Joseph retains.
Nice. All right. Brian Rosa's in there saying Levi Shapiro. Pretty interesting.
I will say this. I mean, I'll echo what Rob has said about, our feature matches. I don't think it would be a shock if Levi Shapiro came out on top, but I still think Dan Joseph's going to win.
Fellas, we're just still hanging pretty tight together on most of these predictions, I think, because I'm with you. I think Dan Joseph is a promising star who's got a bright future ahead of him. Not knocking Levi Shapiro. I just think Dan Joseph's on a roll, and I don't think Levi Shapiro is going to stop him right now. I think we're going to see a lot more out of Dan Joseph as things continue here, as far as like in prime positions in wrestling. Well, we might start separating a little bit more here when we talk about our friend Kamille, much respected, and she's the muscle behind the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, Nick Aldis. She's a prominent member of Strictly Business, but let's not forget, she is a powerhouse and a wrestler in her own right. We've seen her be dominant on an episode of NWA Superpower, and she's going to be making history this week again when she becomes one of the first female competitors to enter the ring on the debut of UWN Primetime Live, and she's doing it against a veteran, a much respected Heather Monroe, who is again a prominent California wrestler. We've seen her tons on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. If you've ever watched that, she has been all over that show, and people know her name. She is a big deal, and you've recently seen her in AEW as well. Kamille brings strength, aggression, just pure power, but she's taking on the Killer Bay, who is a wily veteran, who's sneaky. I don't know. What are you guys thinking about Kamille versus Heather Monroe? I think this could be an amazing matchup, or Kamille could just walk over her. So it's going to be interesting. What are you guys feeling?
I'll go first since Rob will bury me after this. I'm not going to flip. I know you guys want me to flip. I'm not going to give in to the pressure. I still think Heather Monroe wins this match. And that is no shade at all towards Kamille or how I feel about her. It's just, I think in a bout like this, it's gonna, and you guys can disagree. I know you probably will, but I think it's gonna come down to technical ability and that in-ring experience. And Heather Monroe, you say she's prominent in California. That's true, but she's wrestled all over the world. She's wrestled in China. That's
a good point.
She's wrestled on AEW. She is experienced, and I'm not saying that the experience is what's going to make the difference, but I think the technical ability combined with that in-ring experience is going to make the difference. And I think Heather Monroe wins the match.
Ryan Rush is supporting you in there. He's a big fan of Heather Monroe, saying she's going to take this one. Rob, where are you landing on Kamille versus Heather Monroe?
I have the utmost respect for Heather Monroe. This is kind of like how I preface things with you guys when I'm about to disagree. Like, I love you guys.
Yeah.
I do have the utmost respect for Heather Monroe. I absolutely do. She has been over the world. She is the veteran here. Just like I have the utmost respect for the Rock and Roll Express or for the Wild Eyed Southern Boys or for any of those technically astute tag teams, but none of those tag teams are going to stand a chance against the colossal power of the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors. Their power is way too much in this case. Kamille is way too strong. She's way too powerful. She is way too gifted an athlete. No, she doesn't have the in-ring experience or the years behind her, but she is training at Tried and True. She's in that gym every single day. She's dedicated. She's fixated. We've seen her take top-notch calibers men like Tim Storm out with a spear. Heather Monroe doesn't stand a chance in this match. I mean, I love Heather Monroe. I think she is fantastic. The sky's the limit for her, but the sky on this day stops. It's a low ceiling, and that ceiling is Kamille. Kamille wins this match.
Well, Will, we finally get to separate here because I too love some Heather Monroe. I think she is just wonderful. I get stars in my eyes every time I see her. And I feel like that I would also be blinded if I thought that she had a chance at all against Kamille. I think Kamille walks right over Heather Monroe. I'll give you a hint in my build-up, and I think that Heather puts up as much of a fight as we've ever seen Kamille get, but I just think there's no chance. Kamille is going to dominate her. She's not ready. She's not ready for what Camille's bringing to the table, so I'm going Kamille. All right.
Well, I guess we'll see.
I guess we will on Tuesday, September 15th. Hope you guys are all watching it with us. Fight TV. Go check this thing out. But it's not over there. No, we got a couple of more matches to talk about here. One of the cool parts about UWN Primetime Live is it gives a much needed spotlight to a lot of people you might not have seen before. This is one of the things I talked about with Mission Pro Wrestling and Hell Hath No Fury. It's the same deal here with UWN Primetime Live. And one of the things that it also can feature is talents from promotions you may never have heard of before. So for instance, Championship Wrestling for Hollywood, maybe that's not been your thing. Maybe it will be after Tuesday night. Another one though is West Coast Pro, which is an independent, kind of a more local area promotion. But they do have a hell of a champion in Alexander Hammerstone. And he's going to be defending that championship from West Coast Pro against EJ Sparks, who was just recently on Primetime Live taking on Dan Joseph. EJ Sparks, he's a high flyer. He's wild, man. He's all over the place. He's quick. He's agile. Hammerstone destroys people all across MLW, who most people probably know him through. He's been in Pro Wrestling Noah over the last year. It's going to be David versus Goliath in this match. The strength and stamina of Alexander Hammerstone taking on the high-flying antics of EJ Sparks. What works here? Is it the power and finesse, or is it the aerial assault? You're going to find out on Tuesday, but I need to know, Will, what do you think?
I think it's Hammerstone, and this is not to contradict my last prediction. I think he's got the experience. I mean, he's got gold right now in 2 different promotions. He is not only is he tough, but he brings it in the ring. And EJ Sparks, I'm really impressed with him. I did see him for the first time on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood last week's show. I haven't gotten to watch this week's show yet. Was thoroughly impressed with him. I just think, as you mentioned, that, you know, in this particular instance of a David versus Goliath, I just don't see that high flying style being able to overtake Alexander Hammerstone.
Rob, are you feeling the same way about this one?
I am. Remember, I mean, and this is a fundamental philosophy that I have about the sport of professional wrestling. Again, I'm not against the high flying style. I think a lot of people can use it to their advantage. We think about Thunder Rosa, for example, who uses some of that. But, you know, Thunder Rosa has a fantastic ground game. I mean, she's able to do a lot because she's a smaller athlete. So she's got to kind of read the room and parlay that style against the kind of opponent she's facing. In this case, I think Alex Hammerstone's too big. The ground game is going to prevail over the aerial game. I mean, it's like, you know, they say in fighting, like in just regular street fighting, 80% of the fights are going to go to the ground. That's one reason that wrestlers, you know, Greco-Roman wrestlers or freestyle wrestlers or MMA trained individuals or jiu-jitsu individuals have such success in mixed martial art competition, because when you get them to the ground, you know, and you know how to leverage weight and manipulate joints and that kind of thing, that's going to win the day. And in this case, Hammerstone's going to do that. He's going to neutralize the aerial game and keep the match on the ground. It's going to be a slower, methodical match, and at the end of the day, the power and the brute strength of Hammerstone, not to mention the fact that he's also very seasoned and trained and talented as well. He's going to win this match.
I have to say I'm going to side with you guys. I just think Hammerstone's going to be too much. I think EJ Sparks has the, well, for lack of a better word, the spark of an up and comer, and he looks good. But man, I just think Alexander Hammerstone is already at the top of his game. He's in his prime, and he's ready to main event on any promotion. And so showing up on UWN Primetime Live, this is not a guy that drops the ball on a big time competition, and when the spotlight's on bright, he doesn't stop. I think Hammerstone's going to take it to EJ Sparks, and this is a no-brainer to me. I think Alexander Hammerstone retains. All right, and then that, of course, leads us into our main event, the reason we all live and breathe, the ultimate prize fight.
Okay. Well,
I can't. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably overselling it a little bit, but I'm super excited about it. So I can't think of a more fitting main event for the debut of your promotion's flagship show, UWN Primetime Live. They're going to start off with a main event that is an NWA World's Heavyweight Championship match. Nick Aldis in the 10 pounds of gold coming in against a challenger who's seeking not just championship glory, but redemption. He's fighting for his life, as he says. Aldis has been the flag bearer for the National Wrestling Alliance for a long time now, and he's been experiencing a lot of success. Mike Bennett, on the other hand, has been a guy who's been struggling for recognition, who's been faced with adversity after adversity, dealing with booking issues, substance abuse, all of these different things affecting his life. And he is trying to make a name for himself, or as he even said in our interview, remind you of who he really is. And he's definitely got a huge chip on his shoulder. He's exhausted. He's furious. He's coming in here to make a name and to prove his worth. And he's going to do it by, he says, defeating Nick Aldis for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. The question, though, here is, can he do that, I guess? And Will, I just don't know. What do you think?
I think we're all going to agree on this one. But I will say it this way. Nick Aldis does not lose the title on Tuesday night. I think he comes out victorious. I think it is a landmark match between these two guys, and I think we do walk away from it remembering and being introduced to who Mike Bennett is for some of us, really is. But I have started kind of, I think, hopefully referring to this as Aldis versus Bennett 1, because although I think Nick Aldis will retain for sure, I hope it's not the last time that we see this. And I may be being a little presumptuous with that, but I think that depending on how it goes, the way I see it going down is Aldis retains, but Mike Bennett is just as hungry after the match, if not more, to keep it going and to get another shot. And maybe he's got to go through a few other guys to get another shot. But I'm hoping that, this can turn into a long-term feud and we can see something else down the line, maybe at an NWA specific pay-per-view or something like that with these two guys, because I just feel like this build through 10 pounds of gold and the way that these guys' stories are intersecting, I'm just so bought into it at this point that I don't want to see it be a one and done thing. But I do think Aldis retains on Tuesday night.
Rob, do I even have to ask?
Let me say this, okay? Mike Bennett, first of all, make no mistake about it. Mike Bennett is not a B-lister. He's not a minor league player. He is an A-lister. This is a man who has beaten Adam Cole. He's beaten Drew McIntyre. He's beaten Jeff Hardy. He's beaten them all. He's held the X Division Championship. He's held titles in every promotion he's ever gone to. This is a legit A-lister who matches up very, very well with Nick Aldis in a way that very, very few people do. Nick Aldis, Mike Bennett is a seasoned athlete. He's not new. A lot of people want to think of him as like, this guy, this WWE guy that had this run in 205 and in NXT or whatnot. And this is a guy who's been around for 20 years, 2 decades, honing his craft, doing the legwork in the independents, making his mark in Ring of Honor, in New Japan, wherever he's been. This is a guy who's got his family behind him, who's fighting for his family. For him, it means everything. He's fighting for redemption. Guess what, though, guys? Everything that I just said about Mike Bennett, I also can say about Nick Aldis, but more so, except for maybe the family part. I think they're both doing that to the intensity that you can, okay? So then it comes down to, at the end of the day, who is the better wrestler? Who is the better wrestler? They're both good wrestlers. They're both professional wrestlers, as Mike Bennett likes to say time and time again. They're not, they're not driven by gimmicks. They're not out there, they're not sports entertainers, although they're entertaining. These are athletes of the highest caliber. And it just so happens that as good as Mike Bennett is, and on any given day, he might prove me wrong and maybe he has a championship in his future. He just has the misfortune of living in the time of Aldis. And Aldis is the greatest wrestler in the world. That is the only knock I have against Bennett. It's not even a knock against him. It's just the fact that he has the misfortune of drawing the name of Nick Aldis. And nobody can beat Nick Aldis.
Nobody, you say?
Not right now.
Okay. Well, I will give props to Mike Bennett for this much. You are coming in the time of Aldis, like Rob said, and coming off of the place that Mike Bennett is and just coming in out of nowhere. There's a lot stacked up against him walking into this match already. Over the last couple of weeks, I've really started to feel like Mike Bennett has proven himself as a worthy competitor. And I think given that glimmer of doubt in a lot of people's minds that, maybe he does have what it takes. Maybe he is about to make a name for himself at the expense of Nick Aldis. Do I think that's going to happen? That's a big fat no. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that Nick Aldis retains. I think Nick Aldis is always prepared. Like he told us, he stays ready. He stays in shape. He is the champion for a reason. We're about to hit 700 days, right, Rob, with this guy?
On Friday.
Yeah, on Friday. So I think Nick Aldis sees 700.
I think the better question is, does Nick Aldis see 1,400? Because he's that good, guys. And then Mike Bennett is good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, this is one where you watch the 10 Pounds of Gold. You listen to the interview. I've really grown quite fond of Mike Bennett. I really like him. I think
he's a good dude, man.
He's a great guy. He's a heck of a competitor. I think there's a championship of that caliber in his future. It's just not going to come at Aldis's expense. That's the only thing. I mean, and you don't have to take my word for it or any of our words. We're just marks. Take Tim Storm's word for it. Listen to the Nation show from last night and listen to what Tim Storm, one of Nick Aldis's, arch nemesis, listen to what he says about him and his estimation. This is an educated opinion that we're offering here. And it's, again, no critique on Bennett. Could he win it? Yeah, he could. He very well could. If he did, would I be like completely, absolutely shocked? No. But I'm a betting man. If I were a betting man and I had to put my resources on the line, it's going to go with Aldis. Aldis is just that good.
All right. Well, I think the build to the match is excellent. I think we're all excited to see it happen. And I think the fact that there is a chance, albeit small, that Mike Bennett comes out on top. You got to tune in to UWN Primetime Live on Tuesday, September the 15th, Fight TV or in-demand pay-per-view. You got to check this thing out. Like I said, they got that bundled deal. If you want to just go ahead and jump on that thing and make it so it's like $5 an episode, essentially, for 4 of the UWN Primetime Lives, you can do that right now. Or you can just go ahead and go for the one for $7.99 on Fight TV, $11.99 on in-demand. Well worth your money, well worth your time. If you're looking for an alternative to the pro wrestling that's out there in the mainstream right now, it's there. It's ready for you. It's waiting. Go check it out. UWN Primetime Live. I'm going to keep saying it. And then on Friday, NWA Women's Championship match on the line. Title Match Network. Thunder Rosa against Lindsay Snow at Hell Hath No Fury by Mission Pro Wrestling. This is an excellent week for NWA wrestling. You want to see something new, something fresh? This is how you get it. I don't know. Am I missing anything there, guys? I'm trying to sell this thing.
No, I mean, I'm with you, man. I'm excited. It's kind of a little bit surreal because, I joined this show a few months back, and there has not been any new NWA wrestling content besides Superpower, which was like the second or third week that I was a part of this show. So this is a big deal, and it's new NWA specific, even though it's a crossover type show. It's a partnership. We're getting NWA title matches. We're getting NWA, talent here and from here on out, no doubt. So it's a big deal, and I, for one, am not going to miss out on it. And so if you haven't gone and ordered it yet, you definitely should. We're going to be talking about it a lot on this show, so you want to be in the know about what we're talking about and be able to give your opinion and be informed about it. So go do it and let's go support it. Let's make this thing huge. Let's make, I would love we talk about this with Title Match Network and Mission Pro, the same thing with Fight TV. Like, I would love for these to be through the roof because we love the NWA and we love David Marquez. He's a fantastic partner and part of the NWA, and we'd love to support him. So I think this would be a great opportunity for, us to just kind of blow the roof off of it and be like, man, this was huge. Let's keep getting bigger and better. So let's do it.
All right. Well, obviously we can continue the conversation about UWN Primetime Live, Hell Hath No Fury from Mission Pro as we go along in the show. I'm sure it's the hottest thing on everybody's mind. I couldn't wait any longer. We just had to talk about it. So we got it out there. And of course we have the after show after we get through some of the news. So when we just go to hang out with the chat, I'm sure some more stuff will come in, but let's jump into some other news items here. AEW on September the 9th, guys, did 1,016,000 viewers. How about that? That's a pretty big goal for them. Now, a lot of people are saying that's they were unopposed by NXT technically, and all of that. So maybe that should be expected, but I just thought that was a pretty big move by AEW. So props to them.
Yeah, that's huge. And that's something we've been talking about a lot. It's kind of been an unofficial, I feel like, benchmark for NXT and AEW. And we talked a little bit, I think, last week about them separating nights and not going head to head, and how that, hopefully will be better for everyone. I would love to see NXT putting up numbers over 1 million, because that means we could have over 1 million people almost every night of the week enjoying professional wrestling in some capacity. I mean, that's good for the sport of professional wrestling. That's good for what the thing that we love. And so I think that's a big deal. I'm happy for him.
Yeah, I mean, you can't argue with the numbers, and those tuning in in a show that's in a sort of a season in which it's showcasing NWA talent. I think that's a plus. It's a plus for them. It's a plus for us. It's a plus for the world of wrestling. Rising tides raise all ships, and so kudos.
All right. Well, speaking of that particular thing, Chris Jericho was on Busted Open Radio this week. Also, by the way, just before I even go into that, if you haven't already, speaking of Jericho as well, take a moment out of your time to, first of all, know that Thunder Rosa will be on AEW Dynamite this week, also defending against Eva Lise. Is that right? That's who she's defending against. Yeah. So we keep talking about UWN Primetime Live. We keep talking about Thunder Rosa defending on Friday. She's also defending on Wednesday. So she might not even go to Friday as the NWA Women's Tag Team or Women's Champion. But I mean, I think we all assume that nobody can beat Thunder Rosa, and she'll eventually someday be buried with the belt. But assuming that she beats Eva Lise, she'll go on to Friday. But just make sure you check out AEW Dynamite, and Thunder Rosa's her segment was pretty high with Serena Deeb the other day. So that was a pretty cool thing. The reason I know that is if you check out Chris Jericho's podcast from this past Friday, Talk is Jericho, Thunder Rosa was also on that show. And they talk a little bit about that, including a lot of things. So if you want to know more about Thunder Rosa, she is everywhere right now. Thunder Rosa is hot. She is just on top of the world. You can't ask for more out of an NWA Women's Champion.
They're so hardworking. It's just, between her and this is a partnership here. Remember, Brian Rosa is also doing York too, but he still manages twice a week to be in the chat with us for hours to give us that time. And so, big shout out to Brian Rosa. Of all the things that you're juggling, you make time for the NWA fam, and you're a faithful, contributor to the discussion and all that. But, I can't put over Talk is Jericho enough. I mean, I think the Thunder Rosa episode is epic. And this guy will talk about anything. He'll talk about flat earth theory. He'll talk about, Rush and Neil Peart or whatever, man. But it just so happens that this previous episode was Thunder Rosa, and, it's a doozy.
So the original thing I was going into with Chris Jericho was that he was also on Busted Open Radio and making the case for something we talked about the other day, that he thought NXT should move to Tuesday. I have seen a couple of things. It's still apparently a conversation. I've seen a couple of things backing up my theory that Vince has no interest in moving NXT to another day, that they're there for a specific reason. But apparently some people still think it's a good idea. Chris Jericho on Busted Open said, quote, "This is a war that was thrust upon us by a company that is very petty and very spiteful. And we know the reason why. NXT is on Wednesday nights to mess with us. We get it. We pay attention to what we are doing. We don't care what they're doing. We have no interest in it. If you watch us, you get the ratings, and we beat them week after week. We beat them in the demos where people think it's jokes. The only thing that matters is the TV networks and advertisers that are listed in that 18 to 49 demo. Look it up. We win every week. They should retreat. They should move to any other night. Get away from us. You guys got a great program, and it's good. Why would you want to sacrifice your own ratings just to be spiteful and petty to go head-to-head with AEW? We're not going anywhere, and put on anything you want. We'll continue to beat you." It is a retreat, but it's also the right move from a business standpoint. Get your head out of your rear end and just enjoy your product the same way we worry about ours. If they move to Tuesday, smart move. That way you guys can get 850,000, 900,000, whatever. Get 10 million viewers. Congratulations. Let us do our thing and we'll get over 1 million. I think it's a smart move business-wise on their end. They lost. There's nothing wrong with conceding defeat, moving to a different night, and worrying about your show and not worrying about going head to head with AEW because you can't stop us. So that's from Chris Jericho. Thoughts on that, fellas?
I mean, he's coming from a little bit of a biased viewpoint. I don't quite see it as this head to head and they're admitting defeat type thing. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm being overly positive about the situation. But I do think, it was clearly like nobody's under the impression that NXT was not intentionally trying to counter program Dynamite. I mean, Dynamite announced that they were going to be on Wednesday nights, and then shortly after, suddenly NXT was going to get a live show, and it was going to be on Wednesday night at the same time. I mean, it was clear counter programming. They wanted to go head to head and steal some of those viewers that might, jump ship over to AEW. But now I think that as time has gone on and AEW has kind of carved their own place in the wrestling landscape, I think it is smart from a business perspective to say, okay, you know what? The playing field's kind of leveled out here in the sense that like AEW fans are going to watch AEW. If we want to, break through this 800,000, mark for NXT, we're going to have to move to another night and be unopposed. I've also read that USA was a big proponent of them not going head to head just for advertising and that key demo and stuff like that. So if they can move to Tuesday and get that key demo and get the advertising and all that kind of stuff for the network, then that's a big win for everybody all around. So, I think Jericho's speaking from a competitor and he's a little bit in character, I think probably when he's given those comments, but I think what he does say that's true is it's best for everybody. They can go do their own thing and flourish, and AEW can as well.
Yeah, I think that part of Vince probably imagined that AEW was going to be, there was going to be a novelty about it that would eventually wear off, and then people would, again, like they did during the Monday Night Wars, eventually go back to WWE. And it's apparent now that that AEW is a fixture. It's not going anywhere. It's got a loyal and dedicated fan base that they're not going to draw from if AEW is on. I don't care. And I like NXT. I don't care how good it's going to be. I don't care if it's just the Scarlet Bordeaux episode. You know what I mean? If AEW is on, people are going to be watching that if they're AEW fans, and so it makes business sense. It makes sense for their networks to not compete with each other and draw from the same pool of viewers.
Yeah, I for what it's worth, over on PW Torch too, has been a guest on the show. Uncle Bruce Mitchell wrote a nice column too, talking about Chris Jericho being pretty wise in the ways of the wrestling business. Basically, he's just kind of putting over Chris for coming out and making these statements, basically, and that he knows that Vince hears him, basically, and just the way that he's striking at the ego of Vince McMahon. So just kind of interesting. He's on he was also on Alex McCarthy's talksport.com recently. And he said in that show, straight to Triple H, like he said on that, he said, you need to go to Tuesdays and grab an extra 250,000 viewers, get your demo where it needs to be, because it's embarrassing on Wednesdays to see you against us. and then, it's no mistake that WWE is the industry leader right now in wrestling. They're still the top dog, and it's not super close as far as in the scheme of things, business wise. But it is interesting to see Chris Jericho start to attack at WWE with these things. And he's really behind, it was the thing we're talking about at the top, Rob, about the brand, like having faith in your brand and wanting to build your brand. It seems like Jericho has this same kind of mentality as far as when it comes to AEW right now. Like he's really trying to represent his brand, and he's proud of the company that he works for. They got into a conversation at 4:30 even about John Moxley. They were like, well, he's a former WWE guy or something. I forget the exact context of it. It was something along those lines. And he told Alex McCarthy, he's like, this is not that same guy. He was like, Dean Ambrose does not exist anymore. He's like, that was some job guy from the past. Jon Moxley is not the same person he was over on that show. He's basically saying like Moxley's free. Moxley's a different person. That was a WWE creation over on the other show. And Moxley has become his own man, and he is a bigger star than Dean Ambrose ever was. So just interesting just to see, like, he even like he's even looking at it like the talent is like two different people, you know, and it's just, I don't know. I was just kind of intrigued by his perspective on this.
Yeah. And Front Row's made a comment in the chat about maybe there's a slight bit of disingenuousness there on Jericho's part, you know, that they don't pay attention to WWE, because they most certainly do. They
Sure they do. Yeah.
Blatant references all the time and everything. And so, you know, I mean, you're going to stand behind your brand, and that's how it is. I just think that, you know, you look at our promotion, the National Wrestling Alliance. I mean, they do what's right by the company. You know what I mean? There's no need to go and tear down another brand or this or that. And if talent feels a certain way, they certainly don't air it out on camera or on the, you know, in the then you listen to Nick Aldis and or Tim Storm or James Storm or any of those guys give interviews. They're very, very conciliatory and collegial and diplomatic when it comes to speaking about talent in the AEW or the WWE, whatever they really feel. And I think probably in those interviews they're being forthright. But you know, there's gotta be it's expected to take up for your brand and to defend the home court and all that. But you know, let's be real. I mean, let's be honest. Come on, Jericho. Some of the tactics that they use, you guys use too.
Yeah, that's the interesting part of it. I mean, we've got a Paladin in the chat pointing out Jericho's tone seems to have changed. It's become more personal for him. And that goes back to, you know, like I was saying, that brand loyalty to what they're doing, so much so that, like I said, he's not even keeping Jon Moxley and Dean Ambrose as the same person. I just found that interesting psychologically, I guess, for Chris Jericho. But I don't know. I think that there's the part of it that if what we believe, Rob, you always say all the time, you know, it's hard to ascribe like motive to Vince McMahon or like pretend to know exactly what's going on inside his head at all times. But if things are accurate to what people believe right now, you know, they're being pretty predatory or trying to be, you know, like by moving they're one way to look at this is for sure that Vince McMahon was willing to toss the WWE network aside and like the benefits of having NXT on the network as an exclusive. He was willing to give that up just to make sure that AEW didn't succeed. Now he failed arguably, like already. For one, the initial idea I think was supposed to be that they don't get renewed. Well, that happened and they're renewed for many years now. So they've already dropped the ball there. So to some people, it seems like, all right, well then just go away. And they're still not going away. And they're still like trying to pull from the ratings. And so it's just interesting. So I can see like for a guy like Jericho, where he feels like, well, maybe I can appeal to something else, like to his ego somehow and try to attack him that way. I don't know. I don't know what Jericho's thinking either, but it's just interesting to hear him be so vocal about it, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, and to your point about the ascribing motives and all that, I mean, they're probably, and it appears certainly that there was some predatory machinations going on with that move to Wednesday and everything. And the fears that maybe this might eventually constitute a genuine threat. But I mean, let's look at it. At the end of the day, his fears proved to be correct. Like his instincts were right on that. The tactics didn't work out to his advantage, but the fear that he had that this might be legit competition became manifest. And so, you know, does that justify then the initial, even though tactically it didn't work out to his favor from a business sense, even though they're not hurting, you know, from a business sense, at least in terms of, you know, viewership and this and that. It's not going to be anything that sinks the WWE, but I think it just speaks to the insight and the wisdom and the savvy. And here, I'm not here singing the praises of Vince McMahon. You guys know me. You know where I stand on the WWE. I'm just saying the business insight and the business acumen. It does nobody any justice to go out there and act like Vince McMahon is just some bloodthirsty, predatory idiot. The guy's not an idiot. He's a genius. And he did what he did for a sound business reason that ultimately proved to be correct. Didn't pan out, but, the move seems to be justified by how things turned out.
Well, and here's another way to look at it, though. I get your point on what you're saying, but who's to say that the fact that he did go head to head with them I don't think it's going to bury NXT, but didn't, at least for a little while, diminish NXT, because there are people out there, and I'm not educated enough or informed enough about the current NXT product to have this opinion, but I have seen a lot of opinions out there saying that since the Wednesday Night War started, NXT has declined in quality. And so there is that kind of side effect there that people could argue, or people could say that the competition didn't benefit NXT or WWE. So, I think that there's different ways to look at it. I mean, if they had come out and said, still given NXT their live show, but had started out on Tuesday night and didn't do it as head-to-head counter programming, would NXT be in a better position right now? I mean, that's one way to look at it. But then, it's hypothetical. We don't know. So, I think they're right sizing it, and hopefully everybody can excel at this point. But, I mean, you're right. I mean, your points are right. I mean, AEW is a credible threat, quote unquote. But I think at the end of the day, they do kind of reach different audiences, and there are people who pick a side. But I think it's good to have the visibility of all of it. I mean, if you're an NXT fan and you're diehard NXT, you can still check out AEW. That doesn't mean you're less of an NXT fan, right? And vice versa. You can be a diehard AEW fan, but I think they created this war that you had to pick a side, and things got really vicious online about, NXT sucks. Well, NXT doesn't suck. It's just, if you're making me choose between NXT and AEW, I'm going to choose AEW. So I think maybe forcing people to make that choice might have had a negative effect on both brands, and maybe we can distance ourselves from having to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a tough time in my own brain, like balancing out like what their booking decisions, like how it would have changed anything. Because while I can look at things, like for instance, I think that you could argue that AEW's had a better job, or done a better job of building certain people. Like if you look at like more long-term storytelling. So as far as like, or at least for a while, like Hangman Page or MJF or even Orange Cassidy. There are other like I feel like NXT's felt a bit rushed in some places, and injuries have caused this and other things. But it seems like they've been kind of messing around. Although I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard the cage match this past week with Rhea Ripley and Mercedes Martinez is really amazing. And I've heard Finn Balor and Adam Cole was great. So who knows? I guess where I'm going is like on one day I want to like criticize them for their booking. And then it's like, sometimes I look at AEW and I'm like, all right, well, here's the Mimosa Mayhem match. And now Miro's coming in on a wedding angle. Like this is all WWE playbook stuff. It feels like just straight out the same exact stuff. So I don't know like what's influencing their decisions creatively. Anyway,
yeah, like we were saying earlier, you reserve the right to be critical about storylines and booking and all. That's okay, without throwing everything out. I mean, nobody can sit in here and say that everything WWE is doing is terrible, because that's just wrong. It's not true. There's lots of vibrant, bright spots about WWE and AEW. I mean, there are things, Gary, I remember, I mean, you were very critical of the NWA with the whole Mama Storm bit, and at first with question mark, you were outspoken about it even.
Not at first.
So there were,
I think it's
right. I mean, it was always balanced and very respectful criticism, but you made no mistake. When I was just listening to the show when you and Adam were hosting this, you were very vocal about that, and that's just part of being, you call it like you see it, and that doesn't mean you're burying anybody or that you think the company's trash. It may be that the aggregate amount of, of one company tends to be stuff that's not our taste, but let's not kid ourselves that we should celebrate good wrestling wherever it's at, whether it's, under Vince's banner or whether it's under Khan's banner or whether it's under Billy Corgan's banner or whoever. Good wrestling should be celebrated wherever it's at.
I agree. We love good wrestling. And so I think we all agree that we want all of it to be good. And so, hopefully, I don't know. It feels bad like they're fighting each other. And I think it would be better for the whole wrestling business. I do agree if like NXT moved to a different day. Although I don't know why NXT has to move to a different day. I mean, I guess AEW can move to a different day too. But they're not going to do that either. So interesting stuff. Guys, I guess what we should do here is let's go ahead and wrap up the podcast portion of the show. People that are new and watching right now, and if you don't know this already, we do this sometimes. We go ahead and wrap it up for the listening audience who are just going to be hearing on the podcast tomorrow. And we just hang out with you in the chat and we just talk about whatever you guys want for just a little bit. So just stick around with us. We're going to give our little sign off here and tell everybody where they can find people for anybody that wants to, hear more of Rob's ranting and raving. Then they can do it. But so Rob, where are you on the interwebs?
On the interwebs, I am at rstinson4 on Twitter. Shoot, it's like rdstinson4 on Instagram. And on Facebook, Dr. Robert Stinson. You can find me here every Sunday and Thursday night now at the NWA Pod. And the NWA Pod is that on all of our social media networks. So look us up, like, follow, subscribe. Help us get to 1,000 so we can start making some money off this.
Will, where are you?
At Hey It's Will with 1 L, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and at Real Hey It's Will on TikTok. And and as Rob said, right here on this channel, keeping the good vibes surrounding the NWA going and getting pumped up about what's coming up this week.
I am at This Is Gary Horn on all the things. And the show is at the NWA Pod, even on TikTok now. So go check that out. We're thinking about ideas for that earlier. We're thinking about having Rob just jump in with trivia items, like at least every day. That could be something fun for TikTok. So you guys go subscribe to that if you screwing around with TikTok.
Or Rob could do some of the dance challenges. That would be entertaining.
Also a good idea.
Oh, there he goes.
He's getting it. I'm sure that like Tanya would love to help you out and dance and all of that stuff. You could probably get like Piper or somebody to like teach you something. So could happen.
Why are you trying to get my wife to dance, dude?
Yeah, I'm just like everybody else in the club. Anyway. All right. So guys, UWN Primetime Live. You got to check that out. It's Tuesday night. Don't miss it. We're going to be talking all about it on Thursday, giving a complete recap, talking about our favorite parts, our least favorite parts, and who won, who lost, everything. You're going to need to have watched UWN Primetime Live on Thursday. We can probably get more in depth about Mission Pro Hell Hath No Fury, which will be the next night when we talk on Thursday. So you got to make sure you're ready. Get the Title Match Network. Watch that stuff. And also, even if you hate AEW and everything about it and everybody involved, who you don't hate is Thunder Rosa. And she's going to be defending the NWA Women's Championship on AEW Dynamite. So at least tune in for that segment, especially if you're a Nielsen household. Go watch that and then make them be like, oh my God, Thunder Rosa is the biggest star in the entire world and we have to throw all of the money at her. And, that'd just be a nice thing to do for her because she's working her ass off for you guys. She's out there killing it on the wrestling scene and you want to support her. All right. That's it for tonight for the podcast portion. Stick around. We're going to hang out with the live chat. But until next time, podcast, enjoy your gravy cake. And that's my dog right on cue. Thank you so much.
Right. He heard gravy cake, man. Yes.
He's mad. He's a podcast listener and he wants to hang around.
He's like, I can't watch live. I can't watch live.
I don't have access to the internet.
Oh, man. I don't know what an internet is. James Lawrence, I am 100% with you. Wow, I love this. Ryan Murphy, too, saying it in there. Hammerstone Aldis, Crockett Cup 2021. Wow. Would love to see that match. I've actually brought that up to both of them. In fact, I remember one day, this is probably like a year and a half ago, maybe a year ago, Woodland Goblin. Okay, let's drink. On top of it, buddy. I tweeted at both of them like something about Hammerstone versus Aldis, and Aldis retweeted it and did like the eyes, like the little side glancing eyes. It's like, Hammerstone, huh? Interesting. And then Hammerstone replied to it and was like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And that was the entire thing. But it seemed like there was at least a little interest there. So that would be cool. Ryan Murphy wants Tim Storm, Hangman Page as a tag team for Crockett Cup 2021. That's too much. That's too much super hot babyface in one match. You can't do that. It'd be like Tim Storm and Jungle Boy as a team, like just unstoppable. That's the new Rock and Roll Express, baby. James Lawrence will kill me for that one, but that's Jungle Boy and Tim Storm.
They get into it. Tim Storm joins the Jurassic Express, and Tim Storm and Luchasaurus have a falling out, and Jungle Boy's got to choose between, and it comes down to a match between Tim Storm and Luchasaurus. Oh my gosh, man!
Look at
so good. Oh, look at James Lawrence coming in with the Adam Page versus Nick Aldis suggestion. See, look at that. That's a big step for James Lawrence, pushing an AEW competitor in there. I don't know about Jack State and Crimson, by the way. I see that popping up in there. Are they still with NWA? I assume there's some relationship since Crimson narrated the 10 Pounds of Gold that came out this past week, though.
Yeah. I'd love to see a matchup between, if we're fantasy booking here, I'd love to see Brian Cage and Tom Latimer, man.
Oh, my God. I bet they'd beat the hell out of each other.
I mean, I don't know if the ring would survive that.
Paladin asks, as a gamer, the console wars isn't a big deal. But for some reason, in wrestling, people see Wednesday Night Wars as a negative. Why is that? It's an interesting question. So we've been kind of talking about that AEW and NXT rivalry. I mean, I think Xbox and PlayStation are pretty competitive, but I mean, I don't know that they have a, and you could argue that they do exclusive titles, for anybody who's a gamer. They do like Halo's only on Xbox, so they sign their exclusive deals so that PlayStation can't have that same game. I'm not as much of a gamer as I used to be, but a lot of people would argue that competition's good. Rob, what are your thoughts on that? Like, why are people harder on the Wednesday night thing as opposed to just being, it's cool to have competition?
I think that maybe they're not hard. Maybe it's just that it just happens that the circles that we're in, that's the topic that we're interested in. I think generally, probably the general public, your average rank and file fan, which nobody in this chat is. We're not ranked. Everybody in this chat is a dedicated fan who studies the sport, and is thinking about things critically. I think probably your rank and file fan, it's probably not as big a deal. They're probably thinking, we're moving off this night, so now we can watch both. That's probably what's going on. But again, I don't know. The only thing I know is like anecdotally how I see my kids respond, and I kind of use that as a metric, because they know where I stand, and a lot of what I do they imitate. But then Piper is very savvy, and she has her favorites on both NXT and AEW, and she likes to watch them both and dabble in them, but she doesn't care one bit about. Of course, now granted, she's 11 years old, so she's not thinking about competition and all this. But I will tell you, like, gaming, that ticks me off, dude, because like I like the Xbox. I love that, and I also like MLB The Show, which is only on PlayStation. So I have a PlayStation that I only use for the show, and that's it. And everything else I use the Xbox. Ticks me off.
Will, you have any thoughts on this that are going to help Rob along?
No. Kind of what I said earlier is I think I think the idea of the competition was fun at first, and I think fans liked it. But I think for me personally, and this is just my demeanor as a wrestling fan, I the fallout from all of that and the way that people like really like took sides in like a really extreme way, at least on Twitter. And we talk about it a lot, but I mean, wrestling Twitter can be a very toxic place. And, you know, it just got really ugly. And it was one of those things like, I always use this story, but, you know, we're from right here in South Carolina. And I had a friend, you know, the big rivalry here is Clemson and South Carolina. And I had a friend who I was kind of neutral. Like I just enjoyed college football in general. I didn't really pick a side. And he like forced me to pick a side. And he was a big Clemson fan and was just really like rude about it. And so I decided I was going to be a South Carolina fan because of that. Like it was almost out of spite. And I feel like that was kind of what happened with wrestling. It was like, you know, I'm going to like this one, and that means I have to hate the other one. And it just got really like toxic, at least, you know, again, on like social media. And so it just kind of soured me to the whole competition thing. Cause I think at first I was kind of excited about it. And I was like, oh, this will be fun. And I'm going to flip back and forth and I'm going to watch both, kind of like I did with WCW and WWF back in the day. You know, I would watch both of them, flip back and forth. And, you know, it just didn't turn out that way. Like it did. There was a very clear divide that happened. And I don't think it panned out the same way in a healthy competitive way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was the same way moving into South Carolina. I didn't have a dog in the fight for Clemson versus Carolina. And you know, Brian Russell pointing out that he always thought it was a crazy name for a mascot was a gamecock. I mean, there's definitely that side of things that's appealing. But no, it's funny. Brian Rosa's I want to meet Brian Rosa in person one day and just see if he's this wild in person. Like he just seems like some days he's in a mood and he starts going off. This comment in here, Tessa Blanchard versus BLM rally. It's just, oh my God. Anyway, go Longhorns, he says. Yeah, one of my best friends is a huge Longhorns fan for some reason. But I don't know. I grew up in Georgia, so I was a Dogs. I was actually a Georgia Tech fan for a long time. I actually really liked Georgia Tech. Like when I was in high school, I had a Georgia Tech hat on at all times. Like that was like my thing. I don't know. And I think it was probably because it was different. Kind of what Will was just saying is like his friend got really into Clemson. So he went with the Gamecocks. And it was like, I don't know, everybody was all Dogs. And so I was like, I'm going to wear a Yellow Jacket hat. And it's kind of weird. Like my wife the other night, like we were talking and she said something about, I forget what opinion this was on, but she's like, you're either with me or you're against me. And I'm like, first of all, if anybody presents that scenario to me, I'm against you. I'm just against you. I will always be against you because I will not be blackmailed into an opinion. So you can't make it happen. And anyway, but that's, so I guess what I'm saying is I'm stubborn or a dick. I don't know.
By the way, last night on the Nation show, they asked me who was the bigger jerk, Whiskey Gary or Tequila Gary, and I was like, well, all forms of Gary are dicks. so
which is
so
funny,
mean.
which is funny because zero forms of Gary are dicks. Like Gary's the nicest guy ever, and that's not a fair question because the alcohol usually just intensifies his like friendliness. So,
it's pretty terrible. I get like just more sappy the more drunk I am. So
yeah. The main difference is Whiskey Gary is more outspoken and Tequila Gary is also more outspoken, but more like affectionate and kind of sentimental. So, you know, Whiskey Gary is going to say what he's thinking and it's usually going to be really nice stuff. And then Tequila Gary is going to say what he's thinking, but he's also going to tell you that you're his best friend forever.
Yeah.
So
BFFs. I'm drinking a glass of wine tonight, so
we'll see. Wine, Gary.
We'll see.
Coming Mozart and
that's it. I just get really super classy now.
That's really big words out of place.
Be like,
I become Crowbar on Twitter is basically what happens. Like I just start sporting it around, just holding it at the bottom, just contemplating the universe. I like it.
That's funny.
Thank you. Oh, what now? What do you guys want to talk about? We got a little time here, so we're just hanging out with you people.
Man,
Brian Rosa's in here burning Tessa Blanchard, and talking college football somehow. Are you guys NFL fans? I'm a Chicago Bears fan. They won today. Falcons lost to the Seahawks. That's all that. Will was at a soccer game. He likes a different kind of football.
The real football. Just kidding, everyone. Just kidding. God, sorry.
Just gained 2 more thumbs downs, dude.
I know. God, oh gosh, maybe that's what it is.
James Lawrence says, when it comes to this show, I'm the heel you feel.
Yeah. Well, we know Rob doesn't believe in faces and heels. So
Yep. So good point.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, man. Wait a second. Brian Rosa says that's why he lives in the shed. So me and Brian are going to be hanging out.
Ooh, that's a plus. You can hang
I'm
out with
hanging
Brian.
out in Brian Rosa's shed. Holy cow! This took on a different. Okay. See, all this time I thought I was getting the. Now I feel like I'm getting. I realize I'm getting a red carpet treatment here.
Well, Rob, let me ask you about this. Get us back to wrestling for a second. I kind of hinted at it earlier, but what besides Nick Aldis and Mike Bennett, what match are you most excited for Tuesday night? Which one is like number 2 on your list of got to see this match?
Well, it's the Kamille match and Heather Monroe. You know, obviously just because NWA solidarity and just Heather Monroe is really very, very good. She's very, very talented. But Kamille is so intriguing, and I think one of the most watched episodes ever of Power was when they did the thing when Kamille finally broke her silence, and everything about her is so intriguing. And they're hopefully, I think we're leading up, or we ought to be leading up to the Ultimate Showdown. I wouldn't call it the Ultimate Showdown, but what would be one of the great showdowns in the NWA women's division between Kamille and Thunder Rosa, which will be a titanic struggle or clash of different styles and different attributes and strengths. So I think this is probably, going to be part of that narrative. So that's very intriguing to me. And then, of course, the Hammerstone match. I think we're all really excited about that one and about the possibilities of, thinking eventually that maybe he and Nick Aldis crossing paths. So I'm just pumped about all of them, but those 3 in particular.
I think I'm pumped about all those too, but Dan Joseph and Levi Shapiro, I've just always been a TV title guy. I love, for some reason, just the intrigue of the TV title for me is always there. And so I think that match will be a really cool chance for those 2 guys to shine a little bit. And like I said, I want to get more familiar with some of that UWN talent that's out there. And I think that match will be a top tier match from those guys. But that also leads to the question, we haven't really talked about this, but when are we going to see that NWA TV title again? Where's Zicky Dice? What's going to happen? Are we going to see? They haven't said anything about it. They haven't mentioned the tag titles either. So I don't know. There's still a lot of question marks, no pun intended, about the rest of the NWA, because while we are getting this huge title match, there's still a lot of gaps here. We mentioned it earlier with Eli Drake, but Eli Drake and James Storm with tag titles, and Aaron Stevens with the national title. I don't know if they're saving some of this for after this first big, 10 pounds of gold match, and then they're going to start unrolling some of this or what, but I don't know. I'm hoping we're going to see some soon from the other NWA titles.
Yeah, I imagine we will. We don't have any special insight. Brian Rosa probably has more insight than we do on that. So we'll see. I just can't imagine that those, this being the vehicle, one of the major vehicles for NWA talent to be showcased. I can't imagine those titles not being on there at some point very soon, maybe within this first 4 weeks. But going back to what you said about liking the NWA TV title, one of the things you always bring up is how much you like fighting championships and fighting champions. Do you find the TV title to be comparable to like the Intercontinental title? Is or
traditionally, yeah, and I mean, I don't know that the Intercontinental title is there in 2020, but when you look at the history of it, I mean, you look at Kurt Hennig and guys like that when they would hold that IC title. I mean, that's what they were. They were that fighting champion. I do think it's comparable, and I've always said historically in the WWE/WWF. That Intercontinental title was always my favorite just because of the guys who wore it when I was growing up and what that represented in the matches that they would put on. And so, yeah, I do equate the TV title kind of with that. And so obviously I'm a huge fan of the NWA TV title. I'm an Arn Anderson guy, and he's famously, one of the top guys to hold that belt and have, amazing runs with it and put on great matches. But I would love to see that TV title in the current NWA, but also I'm intrigued with the UWN TV title and if they're kind of telling some similar stories with that, because I think that would be really easy for me to buy into as a wrestling fan.
Could you envision a situation where you might see TV title versus TV title?
I thought about that. I think we mentioned that before. I mean, I would love to see that. I think I need to see some more storyline and background with the UWN TV title and get bought into that before really seeing those, title for title match or something, or talking about unifying them, which I don't know if that's even on the table, because at the end of the day, the NWA and the UWN are still two separate promotions. They're just joining up for this thing. So I don't know, but I would be intrigued to see how that could pan out potentially down the line.
I like that idea. I mean, and just to be perfectly honest, since we're just doing this last little bit, just hanging out, us and the boys, maybe some girls, I don't know. It's that with things being kind of weird about the TV title right now. I mean, as officially, as far as we know, Zicky Dice is the TV champion, but assuming the rumors we all heard, the stories we all heard prior to all of this are true, and that still remains the same, eventually that's going to have to change. So I'd prefer it happen in something like what Will's talking about, or what you guys are talking about just now, as opposed to it goes vacant again or something like that. Because it feels like, I mean, I know now this is ancient history, but we just had a tournament for a vacant TV title, that happened at Hard Times. So I don't really want that to happen again, I guess, is what I'm saying. Asking about North Carolina. But I don't know why sorry, I had to step away. I don't know why you guys were talking about the IC title, but that was always my favorite belt. And just from like being a little kid, and I remember seeing the tournament, I'm like 90% sure it was a tournament where Tito Santana ended up winning it, I want to say. And then Mr. Perfect ended up beating him, or maybe it was the finals of the tournament. But I remember Mr. Perfect beating Tito Santana and getting the Intercontinental title and just being an amazing Intercontinental champion. I mean, I hated his guts, but now I look back on him like it's because he was really, really good at it. And then leading up to him dropping it to Bret the Hitman Hart, and then the feud with like Shawn Michaels over it, and just the Intercontinental title was always awesome. And then you always knew it was like the next step up, I one of my favorite matches like growing up too was like the ladder match of all things between like Rock and Triple H. Like I just loved that match with those two guys. It was at one of the SummerSlams, and it was just over the Intercontinental title. It was just crazy to think about now, but those two guys were fighting over the Intercontinental title. Yeah. Owen and Steve Austin, for the Intercontinental title.
It just always felt like it mattered. And I can't put my finger on exactly why, and why it doesn't feel like all the titles matter as much now. I'm sure everybody has different opinions on that, but it just I can remember growing up and watching, the WWF VHS, pay-per-views I would rent from Blockbuster because I wasn't watching them live as a kid. I was watching them like a year later. And so, but when you would watch it, those matches just seemed so big. And the match itself was just always like top notch. You know what I mean? And I think that's what I miss. I think we can get there with the current NWA, but we'll just have to see.
Yeah, and I agree with the national title. Feasibly could be that title, or you said the TV title, obviously that one too. But yeah, I'd love for the national title to become like a real workers championship too, or just like, to have some distinct value. I hated, I'll admit it. I didn't hate it. I did not get why the national title was that national title when they first brought it out. I was not familiar with the history of it. I was not familiar with that title very much at all. But when Colt, or like when Willie was holding it, it started to feel kind of cool. Like it was cool seeing Willie walk around with it. And then the Colt feud, or that match, kind of worked for me. And then, to be honest with you, the second James Storm got his hands on it, I really loved James Storm with that title. Like, I thought James Storm just, he had this, like, the more I had learned about it, it seemed like a really old school title. And then James Storm looked like an old school guy. And there's just shots of James Storm wearing that title or carrying it on his shoulder. It just looked like it belonged with him. Like it could eventually have become almost what you think of with like the TV title and Arn Anderson, like if given enough time and enough prestige.
I know where we're going, Gary. I know where we're going. Keep talking.
What? No, that's it. That was the thought.
Okay. All right. So okay. Stop there. All right.
So anyway, since that point, of course, they ruined it and it's worthless now. But
there they go.
No, man, I don't feel that way. Like I know you think I would go there, but Aaron Stevens had just won me over before all of this crap hit. Like he had just won me over as a competitor. Seeing the stuff I remember, I've said it 100 times, but that there was some good stuff coming up with him that I saw them film in the studio. That last NWA power taping, there was going to be leading into Crockett Cup. They got some really good footage of him and Trevor Murdoch going back and forth in an interview, like a sit down with Sean Mooney. And I was sitting there like front and center on the stands and just like, I don't know, watching Aaron Stevens talking. I was like, holy crap, man, this guy, like his whole thing makes sense to me now. Like I'm feeling it. Like he's still like, he wasn't, steering away from being an a-hole heel, but you were just kind of like, but he's got his way and it makes sense. It works for him. And so I was down with Aaron Stevens at first, or for a minute there. And then he disappeared.
Yeah. Aaron Stevens is he's the real deal. I mean, I know people get tied up in the gimmick and the question mark thing, which I don't think is the worst thing in the world to be tied up in. But I mean, he's legit. And I was there that night, Gary. I wasn't able to stay for the sit down just because we had Petra with us and we had to hit the road and get back up to Chattanooga. But we have talked, you and I, about that particular sit down. And I hope that, I don't know if that footage will ever see the light of day. I hope it does, because I think what you're saying is that it shows a side of Aaron Stevens that we all know is there. I mean, people who know him, you talk to the talent, they know Aaron Stevens to be credible. Yeah, he does. Part of his persona is that sort of comedic type thing. But let's not be deceived that betrays or that hides some sort of lack of ability or anything. I mean, he is a legit talent, and I think the national championship is something that is also on a par with the Intercontinental title. The thing that always kind of struck me as a counterfactual was that design, and I guess they adopted that design because it had the nostalgic look, but that design is actually the old U.S. title design, not the national championship design, and that kind of threw me off because I always thought the national championship was a very handsome looking belt. especially at the time that, like, say, Terry Taylor held it. It resembled the TV championship. There was a series of belts that had that same sort of, it was in that family of designs. And those are some of the most striking championships out there. You guys can Google images of it. But it was fantastic. I want to respond to Brian Rose's question in the chat. He's talking about the Burke and how the people respond to that. And I would tell you that design is, I think, one of the most contemporarily, currently respected designs. It is one of the most attractive, striking looking championships with that picture in the middle. And you guys may not realize that, but that belt was sort of a mainstay of the National Wrestling Alliance or Association prior to 1948, both in the men's and the women's division. I'm trying to send myself a picture. I think James Lawrence might have had this out there in social media today, but I'm gonna see. Can you upload pictures in the Discord? Can that be done?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Of course it can be. Yeah. I'm gonna upload, if you're in the Discord, the regular NWA fam or National Wrestling Alliance Discord, I'm gonna upload that. And it's a picture of Orville Brown holding a version of the men's championship that looks just like the Burke. It's fascinating how similar it is, but that is one of the hottest freaking images, man. It's a cool title. It's the best, certainly the best women's title. It's maybe the best belt next to the 10 pounds of gold. I mean, those are appropriate championships for your standard bearers.
Yeah, he says that Brian's in the chat saying a lot of people are bashing the design of the Burke the last 2 weeks. I have to imagine the only people I could foresee like bashing the Burke would be like maybe AEW fans that it's just like totally different than anything they've seen before, so they're just not used to it. Possibly that's all the only way I can feel it. Like I don't know 100% the story behind how it got to where it is. The belt that Allison Kay was holding at first, I know they said in one interview, I think it was actually when I got to sit down with Lagana or something, he was telling the story that, like, that wasn't the one they meant to go with. I think this one is the one they meant to go with, even at the beginning when she wanted it Crockett Cup, but something happened in the process. They didn't get it in time or something, so she was running with this one. But anyway, Allison Kay apparently had a big hand in that design, and that she's a huge fan of Mildred Burke and wanted that look. And no, man, I think it's so, I don't know, it's so appealing and cool. It gets the added advantage of while Thunder Rosa is carrying it, it looks like a tombstone, and there's just like this, there's something cool about that part of it too. And it's just like Thunder Rosa's from the graveyards of Tijuana. And so I don't know. I really dig it. I don't get anybody not like, it's like one of my favorite designs of any belt, like literally any belt around right now, period. So
can I share my screen real quick? Do I have permission to do that?
yes, you do now.
Let me I'm gonna bring up just a quick picture real quick of just got something I'm just pieced together on PowerPoint. Tell me if you can. Let me see, share. Give me 1 second. Am I sharing? I guess
Not yet.
This is fun.
You have to hit share, and then you have to pick your screen and hit share one more time in the bottom right.
it's asking me to open my share. Allow Zoom to share your screen, open system preferences, security, and privacy to grant access. Gosh, man, why are they gonna make stuff? Ain't nobody trying to get beat, man. Ain't nobody interested in my junk. I don't need all that security.
For those who are talking about Aaron Stevens could be an evil heel, if you haven't heard me talk about it before, just briefly, I mean, the thing that I enjoyed about what he was saying is like Trevor Murdoch was like, I don't know, I love a heel sometimes when they do get the one up or they come back with something that you're like, oh crap. Like that makes a lot of sense too. And it was just that Trevor Murdoch, who I love, was going after him about, you're stupid, you're a joke, Like, you make no sense. Like, you're in here playing games and we're going to go up against each other at Crockett Cup and I'm going to destroy you. And Aaron Stevens just had this comeback of like, you keep calling me a joke and you don't take me seriously. And he's like, and you really should, because like, you think I'm being funny. And he's like, but what's happening is you're just really mad because I'm a champion and you're not. What I do works. And he's like, and you hate it, but here I am. And I'm the champ. And I don't know, there was something about it that you were like seeing this like other sinister side of Aaron Stevens, where he was kind of like, yeah, I know how it seems, but I get the job done at the end of the day. And so anyway.
And that was one of the things too, like when you're talking about storytelling and you're talking about a character like an Aaron Stevens, who does have that comedy effect and plays into his character big time, there is a lot of times like a big moment, and I felt like that might be where they were headed with him and Trevor Murdoch, where, you know, the comedy guy, quote unquote, gets a legit big win and really solidifies himself as, hey, I'm also like this, you know, badass competitor, and don't underestimate me and don't pigeonhole me as the comedy guy. And I thought, and I really felt like that was where they were headed before everything shut down. And I predict that may have been what we were going to see at the Crockett Cup with those two. And it would have been a landmark, you know, moment for Aaron Stevens and really solidify him as that national champion. And so maybe we'll still get that. But Rob and I were just talking, you know, what led into this conversation was just talking about UWN and, you know, the other titles that we haven't heard anything about yet, and whether or not they were going to appear on the show and what we were going to see. So there might be some opportunities to accomplish that same thing with Aaron Stevens on Primetime Live.
Yeah, that's interesting. Front Row does a lot of tech support kind of stuff, Rob. He just figured it out. I think he said you can't share screen share from the Palm Pilot.
I'm using Windows 95 isn't compatible with the. Hey, I just emailed it to you, Gary. For some reason, I'm having some issues over here with.
Why didn't you send it to me in Discord, dog?
He's like, I just printed. Hey,
don't do this to me.
I got Discord open on my other screen, man.
No, it's cool. I got it. Hold on,
Gary. I couldn't find your email address on my BlackBerry. What I did is I hit print screen and I printed it, and then just pulled it up.
You are jerks, all of y'all.
I could see Rob printing it out and being like, I'm going to share my screen and just holding it up to the camera.
Hey, man. Screen Monkey in the chat. Howdy from Korea.
Hey, what's up, Korea?
Korea's in the house. All right. Let's see if I can accomplish what Stinson can't, and forever prove my superiority.
Ooh, there it is.
There's
done it.
There's what Stinson's trying to show us off. That is actually kind of cool. I've never seen that belt.
Yeah.
So this says 1936 on this. And notice that it actually says National Wrestling Alliance instead of association. There was an NWA that operated in those days called the National Wrestling Association, which was one of the many entities that combined in 1948 to create the organization that we now know. But obviously the NWA organically and lineally goes back well before 48, well before 36 even here. I mean, this belt, look at it. I mean, it's worn out. It shows ring wear. I mean, this has been around for a long time at this point too. You know, this title goes back at least to 1905. So, but obviously the belt was designed by the same maker with the same influence. And it's really neat to see Thunder Rosa holding that same title. I think it's one of the most beautiful striking championships ever made. And, you know, it's really, really, really cool. And this juxtaposition between these two is, for those who are into wrestling history, this is just a fascinating picture. And that is Orville Brown right there. Not Orwell Brown, Orville Brown, who is officially recognized by our current entity as the first NWA champion, even though he's really not.
This is interesting. Well, that is special. I like that. No, seriously though, I sound sarcastic, but that's actually really kind of cool. I'm going to tell you something though, real quick. Just throwing it out there. A little questionable on the side plates. That's a interesting aesthetic choice.
You look at that picture of Orville Brown. There are no side plates in the photograph, and it's not that side plates.
Oh yeah, I say side plates, but you know what I meant.
Yeah, they were used. I mean, if you look at that very first belt that we call the Thez belt, and I don't know if you have a picture of that, Gary. I've got one somewhere. It's not the crown. It's not the one that Thez ended up losing. It's the one that Thez wore as the second champion. It's a smaller belt. It's really only about, if you've ever seen a copy of it, it's about 4 or 5 inches, maybe the main plate. Looks like a standard belt, you know. But that belt has like 3 side plates on either side. And it was very common in those days for belts to be that size and to have plates all the way around. And then it was not uncommon for there to be no plates at all, just one main plate. So you had all kinds of things going on. But this particular version, what we call the Burke, is just, in terms of like, it's just like nostalgia. It's a piece of art. It's a beautiful belt. There it is. That is what we call the Thez belt. And that's one of, well, in our parlance, in the common company, we recognize 5 belts as being NWA championship belts of the current order. This is the belt that would have been the belt that Lou Thez wore in 1948 that he won for Orville Brown. And then the crown belt is the one he's wearing there. That's the second belt. And the crown belt would be replaced by the 10 pounds of gold that Nick Aldis wears now, Sweet Charlotte, which would then be replaced by big gold. And then for a very, very brief time was replaced by a belt that only Dan Severn wore before reverting back to the 10 pounds of gold. But that Burke, I mean, that Burke is a fixture. It's one of the key, most important designs in the history of the NWA. One of the most beautiful designs, very classic. You know, I love talking about belts, man. We could be here all night doing this.
I got nothing to do. Let's stay here all night and talk about belts. Korea's here now. I mean, they want to talk about belts. I'm sorry, Screen Monkey. I mean, obviously you're not all of Korea. I know that, but I assume you represent most of the interests of Korea.
That's right.
All right. Anything else we need to talk about before we wrap this show up and get on the road? Poor Will's gonna go to work tomorrow. So does Rob. I don't, but Scream Monkey thinks the AEW women's title looks iffy.
I agree with that. I've always been critical of that design.
The AEW women's title?
Yeah.
I like it. I don't think it's terrible. I think I like that it's, you know, I don't hate it. I think it's, you know, it's kind of small, but that's not the worst thing. I mean, they're you know, you've got some striking belts that look small, but I don't hate it. I just think the Burke is better.
Oh, let's see here. Todd Kinley pointing out, Todd, we have been talking about this all night long, baby. Gotta get here earlier. But yes, other NWA talent and titles will be featured on Primetime Live. Aldis defending 10 pounds of gold this week. Thunder Rosa next Tuesday defending, if she successfully defends on Wednesday, and more to come. And on Friday, Todd, don't you forget Friday. Title Match Network, Hell Hath Enough Fury, Mission Pro Wrestling. Yes, thank you for your service, Screen Monkey. That's awesome. That's right. All right. And yeah, not a lot of fans of the AEW women's title. Well, guys, I hate to keep you or leave you or keep you leaving you or any of the leaving of things.
Wine Gary, everyone.
Let's see here. But anyway, we do have to wrap things up. People got to go to work. You guys have lives you've got to tend to, and wives you have to tend to. You see what I did there? That was clever. All right. So thank you guys, everybody that hung out with us. Thank you for everybody who hit the like button. Somehow some of the dislikes have gone away. Did you notice that?
We want them over.
They were like, actually, I'm kind of into these people now.
I hate these guys.
We're like, man, we really are being jerks. But, hey, 6 of you guys, take your boy. The other 6 of us, we'll keep them on there just to keep them honest.
We got a lot of veterans in the chat. I did not realize this. Ryan Murphy, and then Screen Monkey mentioning that. Rob Stinson, and all right, that's it. Will's like, just wrap it up, Gary. Wrap it up. I could feel him thinking it. All right. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We love you guys. Follow us on @ the NWA Pod. We'll be back live again on Thursday. We'll keep you busy all week long, though. We got plenty of stuff coming out. Of course, on Tuesday night, we're all going to be watching NWA Primetime Live. So if you haven't already, as a matter of fact, join our Discord. In fact, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead, and if any of you haven't done it yet, I'm going to post it in the chat right now. So
Hey,
you
Gary,
can join.
While you're doing that, can I speak on behalf of the trio here and officially dedicate this episode to Wrestling with the MMA as our birthday gift to him? We've got something coming for you, brother, but we want to dedicate this episode to you. You're one of the faithful. We don't see eye to eye on everything, and that's okay. Raise a glass to freedom. Here's to you, Wrestling with the MMA. Happy birthday, my friend.
Happy birthday, MMA. Oh, somebody joined already. Good for you. Look at that. Video Pete has joined the Discord. See, look at that. So I'm doing that because you guys should join the Discord and hang out with us, because I'm sure on Tuesday night, there's going to be convo going on about UWN Primetime Live. So if you want to chat with your fellow brothers and sisters and fans of the NWA, you want to be in there, hang out with us. So we can shoot the breeze and talk about our favorite stuff that's happening on Tuesday night. And of course, we'll be back on Thursday to do a complete recap. And we'll see if we run into Rob Stinson on that day as he is headed into Buda, Texas for Hell Hath No Fury on Friday. So same deal there. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We love you all. Until next time, enjoy your gravy cake.